My wife passed away a year ago. The necklace was the only thing she left me. My daughter and her husband sold it for a trip to Hawaii. A few days later, a jeweler called. Your wife asked me to contact you if this necklace was ever sold. There is something inside you need to see. What he showed me left me stunned. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to stand up to family who underestimated your worth. My name is Booker. I am 70 years old. For 40 years, I worked as a structural engineer building bridges that could withstand earthquakes and hurricanes. I learned early on that the most dangerous cracks are the ones you cannot see until the pressure becomes too great. My own home had developed a fracture I ignored for too long. A fracture named Hunter, my son-in-law. It was exactly 365 days since Etta passed. The house still smelled faintly of her lavender polish, but the silence was heavier than the concrete beams I used to design. I woke up at 5 in the morning just as I had for decades. I shaved. I put on the charcoal suit Etta had picked out for our 40th anniversary. It was a day for respect, a day for memory. I intended to drive to the cemetery and sit with her for a while. But first I needed the necklace. It was a vintage ruby pendant surrounded by small diamonds on a gold chain. Etta wore it every Sunday. When she got sick, she made me promise to keep it safe. She said it was more than just jewelry. I never understood what she meant until today. I walked into the master bedroom. I went to the white oak dresser I had built with my own hands 30 years ago. It had a false bottom in the third drawer, a mechanism I designed that required a specific pressure at 2 points to open. It was not a safe, but it was clever. I pressed the points. The click was satisfyingly solid. The false bottom popped up. There sat the velvet box. I reached for it. My hand stopped. The weight was wrong. I did not even have to open it to know. As an engineer, I have spent my life calculating loads and masses. I knew the weight of gold and stone. This box was air. I opened the lid. Empty. The white satin lining stared back at me. No ruby, no gold, just a void where my wife's legacy should have been. I did not scream. I did not cry. I felt a coldness spread from my stomach to my chest. It was the same feeling I had years ago when I inspected a bridge and found the steel rebar had rusted from the inside out. Structural failure was imminent. I closed the box gently. I placed it on the dresser. I took a deep breath. Panic is for amateurs. I needed data. I walked out of the bedroom and began a systematic inspection of my home. I checked the front door. The deadbolt was intact. No scratches on the lock cylinder. I checked the back sliding door. The security bar was still in place. I went window by window. The dust on the sills was undisturbed. There was no forced entry. The alarm system log showed no breaches during the night. The conclusion was mathematical and absolute. The thief had a key. The thief knew the code. The thief knew about the false bottom in the drawer. Only 2 other people knew about that drawer. My daughter Ebony and the man she married. I went to the kitchen and picked up the landline. My hands were steady, but my heart was beating a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. I dialed Ebony. It rang 4 times, then voicemail. Hey, this is Ebony and Hunter. We are living our best lives right now, so leave a message. The cheerfulness in her recorded voice grated on my nerves. I hung up. I dialed Hunter. Straight to voicemail. I stood in the center of my kitchen. The morning sun was coming through the blinds, but the house felt cold. I looked at the calendar on the wall. Today was the anniversary of her mother's death. Ebony knew this. She knew I would be going to the cemetery. She knew I would want the necklace to polish it and hold it while I talked to Etta. And yet she was not answering. I needed to know where they were. I walked to the living room and picked up my iPad. I despise social media. Etta was the one who loved it. She liked to see what her friends from church were cooking or where their grandchildren were going to college. I kept her account active just to look back at her old photos sometimes. I opened Facebook. The algorithm did not make me search. It put the truth right at the top of the feed. Posted 2 hours ago. Location 4 Seasons Resort Maui at Wailea. The photo was high definition. The colors were vibrant. There was the ocean blue and perfect. And in the foreground were 2 faces I knew better than my own. Hunter was holding up a tropical cocktail with a skewered pineapple slice. He was wearing sunglasses that cost more than my first car. On his wrist sat a watch that caught the sunlight, a Rolex Submariner, brand new. Next to him was Ebony. She was smiling, not a small smile, a wide, carefree grin. She looked happy, she looked unburdened, She looked like a woman who had completely forgotten that today was the day her mother died. The caption read, "Finally escaped the gloom. Much needed relaxation with my hubby. Life is good." I sat down in my recliner. The leather creaked. I zoomed in on the photo. I looked at Hunter's wrist again. I know watches. I appreciate precision mechanics. That watch was a $12,000 item. Hunter had been unemployed for 18 months. He called himself an entrepreneur, but he spent his days playing video games in my guest room or asking me for loans he called investments. I looked at the background of the photo, the Four Seasons in Maui. I did the math in my head. Flights for 2 booked last minute would be at least $3,000. The room rate at that resort started at $1,200 a night. The food, the drinks, the watch, they were spending close to $20,000. Yesterday morning, Hunter had come to me in the garage. I was organizing my tools. He had stood there shifting his weight from foot to foot. He asked to borrow my impact driver. He said he wanted to fix a loose hinge in the hallway upstairs, the hallway right outside my bedroom. I had given it to him. I had trusted him. I had thought he was finally trying to be useful. I realized now he was not fixing a hinge. He was making noise. He was creating a cover sound so he could enter my bedroom while I was in the garage. He used the drill to mask the sound of opening the false bottom. He knew where it was because Ebony must have told him. Etta had shown Ebony the hiding place years ago in case of emergency. They had stolen the ruby. They had sold it. And they were drinking rum punch on a beach 5,000 miles away while I sat here in a suit preparing to visit a grave. I looked at the photo again. Ebony's neck was bare. She had traded her mother's legacy for a tan. I felt a shifting inside me. For years I had been the quiet provider, the stoic father. I had paid for Ebony's college. I had paid for their wedding even though I did not like Hunter. I had let them move into my house rent-free when Hunter's latest business venture failed. I had cooked for them. I had cleaned up after them. I had swallowed my comments when Hunter disrespected me at the dinner table. I did it for Etta. She always said Ebony would find her way. She said we had to be patient. She said family supports family. But Etta was not here. And this was not support. This was predation. I closed the iPad. I did not throw it. I set it down gently on the side table. I stood up and walked to the window. I looked out at the lawn I mowed every Thursday. It was neat, orderly, just like my life. But now there was a variable I had to eliminate. I took out my phone and sent a text to Ebony. I kept it simple. "Where is the necklace?" I watched the screen. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. She was typing. She was deleting. She was talking to Hunter. 5 minutes later, a response came. It was not a text. It was a voice message from Hunter. I pressed play. His voice filled my quiet living room. It was loud, brash. The sound of wind and ocean was in the background. "Hey Booker, relax, old man. Do not make a scene." The necklace was just gathering dust. It was old-fashioned anyway. We sold it to get some startup capital for my new project and to get Ebony some mental health days. You do not want your daughter depressed, do you? Consider it an early inheritance. We will be back next week to take care of you. Chill out. The message ended. I replayed it. I listened to the tone. It was dismissive, arrogant. He called me old man. He admitted to the theft as if he were doing me a favor. He claimed they were coming back to take care of me. They thought I was feeble. They thought I was a senile old engineer who just tinkered in his garage. They thought they could rob me and pat me on the head and I would accept it because I was lonely. They were wrong. I went downstairs to the basement. This was my domain. Hunter and Ebony never came down here. They said it smelled like oil and sawdust. It was where I kept my workbench. It was also where I kept my server rack. I worked on high-security bank projects in the 90s. I knew about surveillance before surveillance was a consumer product. My house was hardwired. I had cameras that did not look like cameras. I sat at my computer terminal. I pulled up the footage from yesterday. There it was. 10:14 a.m. The camera hidden in the eye of the stuffed owl on the hallway bookshelf captured everything. Hunter walked into the frame. He was holding my impact driver. He looked toward the stairs to make sure I was not coming up. He signaled to someone off camera. Ebony stepped into view. She looked nervous. She was biting her lip. "Hurry up, Hunter," she whispered. The audio was crisp. "Dad will come up for coffee soon." Hunter entered my bedroom. Ebony stood guard. She looked at the photos on the wall. Photos of her and Etta. She did not look ashamed. She looked impatient. A minute later, Hunter came out. He shoved the velvet box into his pocket. "Got it," he said. He was grinning. "What about the box?" Ebony asked. "Leave it," Hunter said. "Let the old guy think he misplaced it. He is getting forgetful anyway." Ebony nodded. She looked at the closed bedroom door. "Mom is dead," she said. "It is just a rock. He does not need it. We need a life." She turned and walked away. I paused the video. I looked at my daughter's face frozen on the screen. The distortion of entitlement twisted her features. She said I did not need it. She said it was just a rock. I saved the video file. I backed it up to 3 separate cloud servers. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop. I named it Evidence. My phone rang. It was a landline number I recognized. Levi's Jewelry. Levi was a man my age. Jewish. A survivor of things he rarely spoke about. He had made our wedding rings 41 years ago. He and Etta had shared a love for classical music and rare teas. I picked up. Booker Levi's voice was shaking. "I am here, Levi," I said. "Booker, I have to tell you, Hunter was just here. Or he was here 2 days ago. I just processed the transaction. He sold me the ruby pendant." "I know," I said. My voice was flat. "No, Booker, you do not know." Levi paused. He lowered his voice. "When Etta brought this piece to me 10 years ago for cleaning, she gave me specific instructions. She made me swear on my mother's grave. Instructions I asked. She told me that if this necklace was ever presented for sale by anyone other than you, I was to buy it immediately. No questions asked. And then I was to call you. Why, I asked. Because it is not just a necklace, Booker. Etta told me that she knew Hunter was trouble the day Ebony brought him home. She knew he would come for the money eventually. She prepared for this day." I gripped the phone. Etta. My brilliant Etta. She was always 3 steps ahead, even from the grave. "You need to come down here," Levi said. "There is something inside the stone. I have never seen anything like it. It is microscopic. You need to see it with your own eyes." "I will be there in 20 minutes, I said. I hung up. I stood up and smoothed my jacket. I checked my reflection in the dark monitor. The man looking back was not the grieving widower of this morning. The grief was still there, but it had hardened. It had crystallized into something sharp and cold. I walked out to the garage. I passed the spot where Hunter had asked for the drill. I got into my Ford F-150. It was a 2005 model. Hunter made fun of it. He called it a dinosaur. He did not know it had a modified engine and reinforced suspension. He did not know I kept it because it was reliable. Unlike him. I opened the garage door. The sunlight hit my face. I backed out into the driveway. My daughter was in Hawaii drinking cocktails on my dime. My son-in-law was wearing a stolen watch. They thought they had won the lottery. They had no idea they had just pulled the pin on a grenade. I shifted the truck into drive. I drove toward town. The road was straight, but my path had just taken a sharp turn. Etta had left me a map, and I was going to follow it to the end. This was not just about a necklace anymore. This was about a reckoning. I sat in the cab of my Ford truck, and the leather seat felt hot against my back. My phone felt heavy in my hand like a brick of lead or a loaded weapon. I looked at the text message I had just sent to my daughter. "Where is the necklace?" It was a simple question. It demanded a simple answer. But simple was not in the vocabulary of the man my daughter had married. I waited. The 3 dots on the screen danced. They appeared and disappeared. Then the audio file arrived. I pressed play. Hunter's voice oozed through the speakers of my truck. It was the voice of a man who had never worked a day of hard labor in his life. A man who thought the world owed him a living simply because he existed. "Hey, Booker, relax. You are blowing this out of proportion. It is just a necklace. It is old. It was gathering dust in that drawer anyway. We sold it to fund our healing journey. Ebony has been so stressed lately with your gloom and doom. Do you want your daughter to be depressed? We needed this Hawaii trip to reconnect with our chakras. Consider it a donation to our mental health. We will bring you back a macadamia nut or something. Just chill out, old man." The message ended. I sat in silence. The words hit me like physical blows. Healing journey. Chakras. He stole the ruby my dead wife left me to sit on a beach and drink cocktails. And he used my daughter's mental health as a shield. He was weaponizing her happiness against me. He called me old man. He told me to chill out. In that moment, the grief I had been carrying for a year evaporated. It was replaced by something else. A cold, hard resolve. It was the feeling I used to get when I walked onto a job site and saw a contractor cutting corners with cheap concrete. It was the realization that the structure was compromised and it had to be condemned. I did not reply. I did not scream. I put the truck in reverse and backed out of the driveway. I had work to do. I drove back to the house. I parked in the garage. I walked past the spot where Hunter had asked for the drill just yesterday. I went into the house. It was silent, the silence of a crime scene. I locked the door behind me. I went straight to the basement door. I unlocked the deadbolt I kept there. Hunter and Ebony never went down here. They thought it was just a dusty workshop full of old tools and sawdust. They were wrong. The basement was cool. It smelled of ozone and oil. I walked past the workbench to the far wall where my server rack hummed in the darkness. I built this room 20 years ago when I was consulting for the Federal Reserve on vault security protocols. I sat in the ergonomic chair. I woke the monitors. 6 screens flickered to life. I did not just have cameras. I had a closed-circuit ecosystem that monitored every square inch of my property. Hunter thought he was clever. He thought he was dealing with a senile old man who did not know how to use an iPad. I typed in the command to retrieve the footage from yesterday morning. Timestamp 10:14 a.m. On screen 3, I saw the hallway leading to the master bedroom. Hunter was there. He was holding a pair of wire cutters he must have taken from my toolbox. He looked up at the ceiling. He saw the camera housing above the door frame. It was a decoy, a blinking red light meant to be seen, a simple plastic shell I had installed to test his character. Hunter smiled. It was a smirk of pure arrogance. He reached up. He snipped the wire. The feed on screen 3 went black. He thought he was invisible. He thought he had blinded me. I moved my mouse to screen 4. This feed was coming from the bookshelf, specifically from the left glass eye of the antique stuffed owl Etta had bought at an estate sale years ago. She loved that ugly bird. Hunter hated it. He called it creepy. He did not know that the owl saw everything. The high-definition lens captured Hunter's face perfectly as he put the wire cutters in his pocket. He turned to the top of the stairs. Ebony walked into the frame. She was standing at the top of the stairs, wringing her hands. She looked nervous, but she did not look innocent. "Did you get the feed?" she asked. Her voice was thin and reedy. "Yeah, I cut it," Hunter said. He patted the wall. "He won't see a thing. He is blind as a bat anyway." Then Ebony said the words that severed the last thread of my patience. She looked at her watch. She looked at the door to my room where her mother memories were stored. "Hurry up, Hunter," she said. "The old man is coming back from the garden soon. Grab the box and let's go. I am sick of this smell. It smells like old people in here." I paused the video. I stared at the frozen image of my daughter. Smell like old people. That was the smell of her parents. The smell of the people who paid for her braces, who paid for her car, who held her when she cried over boys who broke her heart. She stood guard while her husband looted my bedroom. She was not a victim. She was the architect. I watched them leave. I watched Hunter pat his pocket where the ruby was. I watched Ebony smile as they walked out the front door. I saved the clip. I burned it to a secure drive. I had the evidence of the crime. Now I needed the evidence of the sale. The phone on my desk rang. It was a secure landline. Only 3 people had this number. 1 was dead, 1 was my lawyer, and 1 was Levi. I picked up. "Booker," Levi said. His voice was trembling. I could hear the background noise of his shop, the hum of the polisher. "Levi, talk to me," I said. "He was here, Booker," Levi said. "That boy, that tall white boy with the expensive haircut." "Hunter." "I know," I said. My voice was flat. "He sold it." Levi took a breath. He came in arrogant. He threw the necklace on the counter like it was costume jewelry. He asked for cash. He said he did not want a paper trail. I weighed it. I checked the gold. I looked at the stone. How much I asked. I offered him scrap value for the gold and a standard rate for a commercial ruby, Levi said. $2,000. He took it, Booker. He laughed. He said it was free money. He said the old lady probably bought it at a flea market. My hand tightened on the phone until the plastic creaked. Etta had not bought that at a flea market. That necklace had been in her family for 3 generations. It survived the Depression. It survived segregation. It survived poverty. And Hunter sold it for the price of a weekend rental car. "I bought it," Booker Levi said. "I bought it because I remembered. Etta came to me 10 years ago. She sat in this same chair. She told me that if anyone but you ever tried to sell this piece, I was to buy it and call you immediately. Why Levi? I asked. Why did she do that? Because she knew, Levi whispered. She told me Hunter was a snake the day she met him. She told me Ebony was weak. She said the necklace was a test. And she said there is a time bomb inside it. A bomb, I asked, not an explosive, Booker. Information. She had me install a micro-inscription inside the ruby itself. A laser etching. You need to come see it. It triggers something. She called it the poison pill protocol. I stood up. My knees popped. I felt a surge of adrenaline I had not felt since my days inspecting high-rise foundations. Etta was gone, but she was still fighting for this family. She was still fighting for me. I am coming, Levi, I said. Do not close the shop. I hung up. I looked at the screen one last time. Ebony's face was still frozen in that dismissive sneer. They thought they had won. They thought they were smart. They had no idea they had just walked into a trap set by a dead woman 10 years ago. I grabbed my keys. It was time to see what Etta had left for me. It was time to arm the bomb. I drove my 2005 Ford truck down Main Street, and the engine hummed with a rhythm I knew by heart. Hunter called this truck a piece of junk. He told Ebony. I embarrassed them by driving it. He wanted me to buy a luxury SUV. He did not understand that this truck was paid for. It was solid steel. It was honest. Just like the woman who sat in the passenger seat for 20 years, Etta never cared about flash. She cared about foundation. I pulled up to Levi Fine Jewelry. The shop was tucked between a bakery and a dry cleaner. It had been there since the riots in the 60s. Levi was waiting for me. He unlocked the door before I even knocked. He looked older than I remembered. His hands were shaking as he flipped the sign to closed Booker. He said, "You look like a man ready for war." "I am not ready for war, Levi," I said. "I am ready for answers." He led me to the back room. It smelled of metal polish and old paper. The necklace was sitting on a black velvet pad under a bright lamp. It looked small, innocent. Just a red stone on a gold chain. To Hunter, it was a quick trip to Hawaii. To me, it was the last thing Etta touched before she went into the hospital. Levi picked it up with tweezers. He did not look at the gold. He looked at me. "You know, Booker," he said, "Etta was smarter than all of us combined. She came in here 10 years ago. It was a week after Ebony brought that boy home for the first time. You remember?" I remembered Hunter had walked into our house and assessed the furniture like an appraiser. He had asked Etta how much she thought the house was worth before he even asked her how she was doing. Etta told me that day. Levi continued. She said, "Levi, that boy has a hole inside him that no amount of money will ever fill. He will drain Ebony dry, and then he will come for us." She said she needed an insurance policy. Not for her, for the legacy. "She never told me," I whispered. "She wanted to protect you," Levi said. "She knew you would just work harder to fill the hole," Hunter dug. "She wanted to make sure that if the worst happened, the assets would be safe. She asked me to modify the ruby." "Modify it?" I asked. "It is a stone." Levi shook his head. "It is not just a stone. Booker, it is a key." Levi moved the velvet pad under a high-powered gemological microscope. He adjusted the focus knobs. He beckoned me over. "Look," he said. "Look right into the center of the table facet." I leaned in. I pressed my eye to the rubber cup. At first I saw only the deep red landscape of the ruby, the inclusions, the natural flaws. Then Levi turned a dial on the side of the scope that controlled a polarized light filter. Suddenly the red landscape shifted. In the center of the stone, suspended in the crystal lattice, there was something unnatural. It was a series of geometric shapes, tiny, precise, etched with a laser so fine it was invisible to the naked eye. It looked like a QR code, but more complex. "What is that?" I asked. My voice felt thick. "That is optical data storage," Levi said. Etta had me send the stone to a lab in Switzerland. They etched a 64-character alphanumeric key into the heart of the gem. It is unreadable without this specific magnification and light frequency. "And what does the key open?" I asked. "It opens a blind trust," Levi said. He stepped back and pulled a thick file from his safe. He opened it. "The Etta Hayes. Revocable trust," he read. "The terms are explicit. Booker. The trust holds the majority of Etta assets, but the beneficiary clause is unique. It is what lawyers call a moral clause or a poison pill. Explain it to me, I said. I needed to understand the mechanics. I was an engineer. I needed to know how the load was distributed. Levi pointed to a highlighted paragraph. The beneficiary of the trust is designated as the physical holder of the ruby pendant. If the pendant is retained within the direct bloodline, meaning Ebony, the trust remains dormant and accrues value for her future. However, there is a condition. He turned the page. If the pendant is sold, transferred for monetary gain, or used as collateral by the primary beneficiary or their spouse, the trust immediately triggers a reallocation event. Reallocation to who, I asked. To you, Levi said, if you are alive, if not to a list of charities Etta selected. By selling this necklace for $2,000, Hunter effectively sold Ebony rights to the entire estate. He triggered the clause, Booker. The moment he took that cash, he disinherited his wife. I stared at the necklace. It sat there shining under the lamp. Hunter had held his future in his hands. He had held millions of dollars, and he traded it for a plane ticket and a fake tan. He was so blinded by the small glint of gold he missed the diamond mine underneath. Does he know? I asked. No, Levi said. Only 3 people knew. Me, Etta, and the lawyer who drafted it, Mrs. Kowalski. You need to go see her, Booker. She has the numbers. I just have the key. I left Levi. Shop with the necklace in my pocket. It felt heavier now. It carried the weight of Etta judgment. She had tested them from the grave and they had failed within 24 hours. I drove to the financial district. Mrs. Kowalski's office was on the 42nd floor of a glass tower. She was a woman of steel and silk, sharp eyes, expensive suits. She had been Etta friends since college. They were 2 black women who had climbed mountains in a world that wanted them to stay in the valley. Booker, she said when I walked in. She did not offer me coffee. She offered me a seat and a tablet, I assume. Levi told you about the sale, she said. He did. I said, then you need to see what they threw away. She tapped the screen. A spreadsheet opened. I looked at the numbers. My breath caught in my throat. I knew Etta was good with money. I knew she invested. But I thought she was buying mutual funds. Maybe some bonds. I was wrong. Etta had been buying commercial real estate since the early 90s. Warehouses near the airport, storefronts in gentrifying neighborhoods, a logistics center in Texas. The total value at the bottom of the screen was $5,200,000. $5 million, I whispered. And growing, Mrs. Kowalski said. The rental income alone is $25,000 a month. Etta reinvested every penny. She wanted this to be Ebony's safety net. She wanted her daughter to be free. I looked out the window at the city below. I thought about Ebony in Hawaii. She was probably laughing right now, thinking she was clever for getting $2,000 for an old rock. She had traded a kingdom for a meal. The sale of the necklace is the trigger, Mrs. Kowalski said. Legally, the trust has now reverted to you. Booker, you are the sole beneficiary. Ebony gets nothing. Hunter gets nothing. The $2,000 they got from Levi is their entire inheritance. I sat back in the leather chair. I felt a strange calm settle over me. It was the calm of a man who holds a royal flush while his opponent is betting the deed to his house on a pair of 2s. So it is mine, I said. All of it, Mrs. Kowalski said. We can file the paperwork today, can notify them. We can evict them from your house. We can crush them. Booker, I thought about it. I thought about the police. I thought about shouting at them, but that was too easy. That was too quick. Hunter was arrogant. If I confronted him now, he would play the victim. He would say it was a misunderstanding. He would manipulate Ebony. No, I said. Mrs. Kowalski raised an eyebrow. No, do not file anything yet, I said. Do not notify them. Let them enjoy their vacation. Let them come home thinking they got away with it. Why, Booker? She asked. Because I want to see how far they will go, I said. Hunter thinks I am a weak old man. He thinks he can push me into a corner. I want him to try. I want him to dig a hole so deep that when I finally drop the dirt on him, he will never climb out. I stood up. Let them spend the money, I said. Let them plan. Let them dream about spending my pension, and when they make their move to take the rest, I will introduce them to reality. Mrs. Kowalski smiled. It was a shark smile, Etta. Married the right man. She said I walked out of the office. I had $5 million in my name. I had the necklace in my pocket. And I had a plan. I was going back to my empty house. I was going to wait for my children to return. And I was going to play the role of the confused, grieving father perfectly until the moment I decided to stop playing. Hunter wanted a war. He just did not know he was fighting a nuclear power. I sat in my truck in the parking lot of Mrs. Kowalski office building. I watched the people walking by. Businessmen in suits, couriers on bikes. They were rushing to meetings, rushing to deadlines. I was not rushing, I was calibrating. For 40 years, I had calculated stress loads on steel beams. I knew exactly how much pressure a structure could take before it buckled. Now I was applying that same math to my own family. I took out my phone. My hands were steady. I dialed Ebony number. It rang once, twice. Then she picked up. Hello. Her voice was guarded. She was expecting a fight. She was expecting the angry father who had demanded answers. I cleared my throat. I let a tremor creep into my voice. It was a subtle performance, just enough to suggest weakness, just enough to suggest age. Ebony, honey, I said. I have been thinking. There was silence on the line. I could hear the wind in the background, the sound of waves. She was still on the beach, still spending my money, thinking about what she asked. Her tone was sharp, defensive. About the necklace, I said. I let out a long sigh. Maybe Hunter is right. Maybe I am just an old man holding on to the past. I have been forgetful lately. Maybe I misplaced it. Maybe I gave it to you and forgot. The silence stretched. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. She was processing the shift. She was recalculating my threat level. She looked at Hunter. She whispered something. Then she came back on the line. Her voice was different. It was sweeter, lighter. It was the voice she used when she wanted money for a new dress in high school. Oh, Dad, she said. I am so glad you see it that way. Hunter and I were just talking about how worried we are about you. We know you have been lonely since Mom died. We just want you to be happy. I am happy, I lied. I just want peace. Of course, Dad, she said. You deserve peace. Listen, we are going to cut the trip short. We miss you. We want to come home and take care of you. We will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, I asked. My heart skipped a beat. This was faster than I expected. They were not coming back out of love. They were coming back because they smelled blood in the water. My sudden capitulation had signaled weakness. Predators always attack the weak. That is wonderful, honey, I said. I will have dinner ready. You are a good dad, she said. See you soon. She hung up. I stared at the phone. Good dad. The words tasted like ash. She called me a good dad because I let her rob me. Because I let her disrespect her mother memory. She did not love me. She loved my compliance. I drove home. I had 24 hours to prepare. I went to the basement. I checked my servers. I checked the cameras. I made sure every angle was covered. I went to the guest room. I cleaned it. I made the bed. I wanted them to be comfortable. I wanted them to feel secure. Because the more secure they felt, the more mistakes they would make. The next afternoon, I heard a car pull into the driveway. It was a rental, a luxury SUV. Hunter got out first. He was wearing a floral shirt and shorts. He looked tan. He looked rich. He did not look like a man who had just sold his mother-in-law legacy for pocket change. Ebony got out. She was wearing a new dress. She was carrying bags from high-end stores. They walked to the front door. They did not knock. They used the key I had given them. I was standing in the hallway. I forced a smile onto my face. Welcome home, I said. Hunter walked right past me. He dropped his heavy suitcase on the floor with a thud. He looked around the living room as if he were inspecting a hotel lobby. God, it is stuffy in here, he said. Don't you ever open a window, Booker? He did not call me Dad. He did not call me Mr. Hayes. Just Booker. The disrespect was casual, automatic. Ebony hugged me. It was a quick hug, a performance hug. She smelled of coconut sunscreen and expensive perfume. Hi, Dad, she said. She pulled away quickly. Did you make dinner? We are starving. Airplane food is gross. I made pot roast, I said. Your mother recipe. Hunter groaned. Meat and potatoes again. We have been eating fresh seafood for 3 days. My system cannot handle heavy grease right now. I felt a flash of anger. Etta pot roast was legendary. It was comfort on a plate. Hunter was rejecting it just to assert dominance. I can make something else, I said. My voice was mild. Nah, forget it, Hunter said. He walked toward the stairs. He stopped. He looked up at the master bedroom door. My bedroom door. "Hey, Booker," he said. "Ebony and I were talking on the plane. We need to make some changes around here." "Changes?" I asked. "Yeah," Hunter said. He started walking up the stairs. Ebony followed him. I followed them. Hunter stopped in front of my bedroom. He opened the door. He walked in. He stood in the center of the room, looking at the bed I had shared with Etta for 30 years. "This room," he said, "it has the best light. It has the view of the garden. It is the biggest room in the house." "It is my room," I said. Hunter turned. He smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a landlord evicting a tenant. "Not anymore," he said. "Look, Booker, you are one guy. You do not need all this space. Ebony and I are starting a business. We need an office. We need a headquarters. This room is perfect." He kicked my suitcase, which I had left by the closet. It slid across the floor and hit the wall. "Besides," he added, "it is depressing in here. All these old pictures. It smells like a funeral home. We need fresh energy." Ebony stood by the window. She was looking out at the garden Etta had planted. She did not look at me. "Hunter is right, Dad," she said softly. "We need space to grow. You want us to be successful, dawn to you." I looked at them, my daughter and her husband, standing in the sanctuary of my marriage, planning to erase me. "Where do you expect me to sleep?" I asked. Hunter pointed down. "The basement," he said. "It is finished right. It has a bathroom. It is quiet down there. You like tinkering with your little projects. It is perfect for you, like a man cave or a retirement suite. The basement. They wanted to put me underground, out of sight, out of mind." "It is damp down there," I said. "My arthritis." "Buy a dehumidifier," Hunter said. He waved his hand. "Look, we are doing this for you. Less stairs to climb. Safer for an old guy. We are thinking of your health, Booker." He walked over to my dresser, the dresser with the false bottom. He ran his hand along the wood. "We will need this furniture moved out by tonight," he said. "The painters are coming tomorrow. We are going with a modern gray. This oak is outdated." "Tonight?" I asked. "Yeah, tonight," Hunter said. He clapped his hands. "Chop, chop, Booker. We want to get settled." He walked out of the room. He brushed past me. His shoulder hit mine. It was not an accident. It was a shove, a physical assertion of power. Ebony followed him. She paused at the door. "It is for the best, Dad," she said. "You will see. It will be cozy down there." She left me standing alone in my room, the room where I had held Etta's hand as she took her last breath, the room where we had dreamed of growing old together. They were taking it. They were taking everything. I did not argue. I did not fight. I packed my clothes. I packed the photo of Etta from the nightstand. I packed my books. I spent the next 2 hours moving my life down a flight of stairs. Every trip was a reminder of my new status. I was no longer the patriarch. I was the guest, the burden. Hunter sat on the couch in the living room watching television. He drank a beer he had taken from my fridge. He did not offer to help. He watched me struggle with a heavy box of winter coats. "Careful there, old-timer," he called out. "Watch the back. We do not have money for hospital bills. Healthcare is expensive, you know. Try not to break a hip." I gripped the railing. My knuckles turned white. I imagined dropping the box. I imagined walking over to him and showing him exactly how much strength a 70-year-old structural engineer still had. I imagined throwing him through the front window. But I did not. I took a breath. I walked down the stairs. I entered the basement. It was cool. It was quiet. I put the box down. I looked around. This was my command center. My bunker. They thought they had banished me to the dungeon. They thought they had put me in a box where I could not hurt them. They were wrong. They had just put me in the cockpit. I sat down at my desk. I turned on the monitors. I saw Hunter on screen 1. He was laughing at something on the TV. I saw Ebony on screen 2. She was in the kitchen pouring wine. I opened a new file. I named it Eviction Protocol. They wanted the master bedroom. They could have it. They wanted to play house. I would let them. But they forgot one thing. I built this house. I knew every wire, every pipe, every weakness. And now I was going to bring the roof down on their heads. The basement was cold. It smelled of damp concrete and memories I had packed away in cardboard boxes decades ago. I sat on a folding metal chair next to the water heater. Above my head I could hear the floorboards creak. Every footstep was a reminder of my displacement. Hunter was walking in my bedroom. Ebony was walking in my kitchen. They were living their lives on top of mine, literally and metaphorically. I did not turn on the main lights. I liked the dark. It helped me think. I looked at the setup on my workbench. To the untrained eye, it looked like a pile of old computer parts and tangled wires. Hunter had glanced at it when he threw my suitcase down the stairs and called it junk. He saw e-waste. I saw a weapon. I had spent 30 years designing security infrastructures for regional banks. I knew that the strongest walls were useless if the data lines were compromised. I pulled my laptop closer. The screen glowed with a soft blue light. I accessed the home router. It was a high-end model I had installed myself. I had created a backdoor administrative account years ago just in case I ever locked myself out. Now I was using it to lock them in. I installed a packet sniffer on the network. It is a piece of software that captures data traveling through a network. Every email they sent, every website they visited, every voice over IP call they made, it all had to pass through my router, and now it all passed through my screen. I watched the data stream flow. It was like watching a river. Most of it was noise, social media scrolling, online shopping for things they could not afford. But I was looking for the currents underneath. I was looking for the secrets. Upstairs I heard a loud thud, then laughter. They were probably moving the heavy oak dresser, the one with the false bottom. They did not know it was empty. They did not know the real treasure was sitting on a hard drive 2 floors below them. I adjusted my headset. I turned up the gain on the audio monitors. I had placed microphones in the smoke detectors 6 months ago, not because I suspected them then, but because I am an engineer. Redundancy is my religion. I like to know if a pipe bursts or a window breaks while I am away. Now those microphones were my ears. I heard the clink of glasses. I heard the pop of a cork. They were celebrating, drinking my wine, eating my food, living in my house. I sat in the dark and I waited. Patience is the difference between a good foundation and a great one. You have to let the concrete cure. You have to let the trap set. At 2 a.m, the house was silent. The floorboards had stopped creaking. The celebration was over. I was still awake. I was drinking lukewarm coffee from a thermos. My eyes were fixed on the audio waveform on my monitor. Suddenly the line spiked. Someone was awake. Someone was making a call. I isolated the feed. It was coming from the garage. Hunter. He had gone to the one place he thought was soundproof. He did not know I had installed a high-sensitivity acoustic sensor near the water main to detect leaks. It picked up his voice perfectly. I put on my headphones. I pressed record. "Please, Vinny, I need more time." Hunter's voice was thin. It lacked the arrogance he showed me earlier. It sounded wet with fear. There was a pause. He was listening to someone on the other end. I could not hear the other person, but I could infer the violence in their words by the way Hunter's breathing hitched. I know, Hunter stammered. 200,000. I know the number, Vinny. You do not have to threaten me. I have a solution. I am standing in the solution right now." He paused again. "It is the house, Vinny. The old man house. It is a colonial on a double lot in the historic district. I checked the comps on Zillow yesterday. It is worth $850,000 conservatively." I froze. 850,000. That was the market value. He had done his homework. He had appraised my life, and he was trading it for his freedom. "Yeah, he is still here," Hunter said. He lowered his voice. "But he is feeble, Vinny. He is losing it. His memory is shot. I have him living in the basement like a troll. He does whatever I say. I just need a week. Maybe 10 days. I am going to get him to sign over the deed. I will tell him it is for insurance or tax purposes. He will sign anything if I tell him it helps Ebony." I clenched my fist. He was using my love for my daughter as the lever to pry my home away from me. "Just hold off the boys," Vinny Hunter pleaded. "Do not come to the house. Not yet. If he sees you, he might get spooked. Just give me a week. Once the deed is in my name, I will take out a hard money loan and pay you in full, plus interest. Just do not hurt me." The call ended. I sat back in my chair. The silence of the basement felt heavy. Vinny. $200,000. Crypto gambling debts. I knew the type. Hunter had bet on digital coins thinking he was a genius and the market had eaten him alive. Now he was trying to feed me to the sharks to save himself. He called me a troll. He said I was feeble. I saved the recording. I named the file Vinny Protocol. I checked the timestamp. 2:14 a.m. He was desperate. Desperation makes people sloppy. It makes them rush. He needed the deed in a week. That meant he would make his move soon. I needed to be ready. I needed to know exactly how deep the rot went. I opened my email. There was a new message from Mrs. Kowalski. The subject line was simply credit report. I opened the attachment. It was a comprehensive financial audit of my identity. Mrs. Kowalski had run a check on my social security number. I scrolled down the PDF. The light from the screen hurt my tired eyes, but the numbers hurt more. 3 credit cards. Chase, American Express, Citibank. All opened in the last 6 months. All opened under the name Booker Hayes. All sent to a post office box in Hunter name. I looked at the balances. $15,000 at a luxury car rental agency. $12,000 at high-end clothing boutiques. $8,000 at nightclubs and bars. $10,000 in cash advances. Total outstanding debt, $45,000. They had stolen my identity. They had leveraged my good name, my 80-year credit score to fund a lifestyle they could not earn. This was not just bad family dynamics. This was a felony. This was federal crime. I printed the report. The printer hummed softly in the corner. I picked up the warm pages. This was the ammunition. I could call the police right now. I could have Hunter arrested before sunrise, but that would be too kind. He would go to jail, but he would not learn. And Ebony, she would blame me. She would say I was cruel. She would say I ruined her life. I needed Ebony to see him for what he was. I needed her to choose. I heard the door at the top of the stairs open. It was morning. The sun was coming through the small basement windows. "Dad, are you awake?" It was Ebony. Her voice was soft, cautious. "I am here," I called out. My voice sounded raspy. I did not have to fake that. I had not slept. She came down the stairs. She was wearing a silk robe that I now knew I had paid for. She held a cup of coffee. "I brought you some coffee," she said. She looked around the basement. She wrinkled her nose at the smell of oil. "It is cozy down here," she lied. "Thank you," I said. I took the cup. I did not drink it. I did not trust anything they gave me anymore. She sat on a wooden stool. She pulled her robe tighter. She looked nervous. "Dad," she said. "Hunter and I were talking. We are worried about you." "Worried?" I asked. "About your finances," she said. "We know the pension is not much, and the house upkeep is expensive. Hunter has a friend in finance. He says we could get a business loan to start our company, and the profits would pay for everything. We could take care of you properly. Here it comes. The pitch." "That sounds nice," I said. I played the part, the confused old man. "It is nice," Ebony said. She reached into her pocket. She pulled out a folded document. It was thick, legal-size paper. "We just need you to sign this," she said. "It is just a formality. It lets us use the house as leverage for the business loan. We will pay it back in a few months. You will not even notice." I looked at the paper. I did not need to read it to know what it was. It was a quitclaim deed. It would transfer the title of the house to Hunter and Ebony. She was handing me my own eviction notice and calling it a formality. I took the pen she offered. My hand shook. I let it shake. "I do not know, Ebony," I said. "My eyes are so bad lately. I cannot read the fine print. I should probably have my lawyer look at it." Panic flashed in her eyes. "No, Dad," she said quickly. "Lawyers cost money. We do not need that." Hunter read it. "It is standard. Just sign here." She pointed to the line. Her fingernail was painted red, the color of the ruby she had sold. I held the pen over the paper. I watched her breath hold. She was so close. She thought she had me. I lowered the pen. I touched the paper. Then I stopped. "I am feeling dizzy," I said. I dropped the pen. It clattered on the concrete floor. "I think I need to lie down, honey. Can we do this later?" Ebony's face fell. She looked angry for a split second before she masked it with concern. "Okay, Dad," she said. Her voice was tight. "Rest. We can do it tonight. But we really need to get it done. For the business." She picked up the document. She snatched the pen. "Get some sleep," she said. She walked up the stairs. She did not look back. I waited until the door closed. I waited until I heard her footsteps fade. Then I picked up the credit report. I picked up the recording of Vinny. I put them in a metal lockbox, and I slid it under the workbench. They wanted me to sign. They wanted the house. I would give them something to sign. I would give them a reality they could not escape. I turned back to my computer. I opened the folder marked Evidence. I added the credit report. I added the Vinny recording. The file was getting heavy. It was almost ready to drop. Tonight they would try again. Tonight they would push harder. And tonight I would be ready. I checked the camera feed in the kitchen. Hunter was there. He was pacing. He was on the phone again. Probably Vinny. I zoomed in. I could see the sweat on his forehead. Good, I whispered to the empty basement. Sweat while you can, son, because soon you are going to freeze. I sat in the darkness of my basement bunker listening to the floorboards creak above my head. It was the sound of a marriage disintegrating under the weight of greed. Hunter was pacing back and forth in the living room. His footsteps were heavy and erratic. He was a man running out of time, and he knew it. Vinny the loan shark had given him a deadline, and that deadline was breathing down his neck like a hot wind. I adjusted the volume on my headset. The microphone in the smoke detector picked up every word. "You are useless!" Hunter screamed. His voice cracked with hysteria. "I told you to get him to sign the papers this morning. Why did you let him drop the pen? Why did you let him walk away?" I heard Ebony sobbing. It was a weak, pathetic sound. I did try Hunter. He said he was dizzy. He said he could not see the lines. What did you want me to do, force his hand? "Yes," Hunter roared. "Yes, that is exactly what I wanted you to do. Do you think Vinny cares if your father is dizzy? Do you think the bank cares? We are drowning, Ebony. We are underwater, and your father is the only life raft we have. You need to stop being a daddy's girl and start being a partner." I heard the sound of glass breaking. Hunter had thrown something, probably one of Etta vases. He was destroying my home piece by piece because he could not steal it fast enough. He is old. Hunter hissed. His brain is turning to mush. He won't even remember signing it. Just put the pen in his hand and guide it. Tell him it is for a magazine subscription. Tell him it is for tax rebates. Lie to him, Ebony. Do whatever it takes. "I cannot just force him," Ebony cried. "He is my dad. He looked so frail today." "He is not frail. He is stubborn," Hunter said, "and he is selfish. He is sitting on a gold mine while we starve. He owes us this. After everything we have done for him. After we moved back here to take care of him." I almost laughed. "Take care of me." "They came back to pick the carcass clean." "Make him sign," Hunter said. His voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "Or I will make him sign. And if I have to do it, I won't be gentle about it. Get it done, Ebony. Tomorrow. No more excuses." I took off the headset. I rubbed my temples. My daughter was being bullied by a man who was terrified of his own shadow. And instead of standing up to him, she was folding. She was becoming his accomplice, not out of love, but out of fear. It broke my heart, but it also hardened my resolve. I opened my logbook. I wrote down the time and the threat. I was building a case, not just for the police, but for my own conscience. The next morning, the psychological warfare began. They decided that if I claimed I could not see or remember things, they would make that lie a reality. They launched a campaign of gaslighting that was as cruel as it was clumsy. I woke up and reached for my reading glasses. I always left them on the nightstand next to my cot. They were gone. I patted the table. I checked the floor. I knew exactly where I had put them. I am an engineer. I do not misplace tools. I walked up the stairs squinting. I found Ebony in the kitchen. She was stirring oatmeal. She did not look at me. "Ebony," I said, "have you seen my glasses? I cannot find them." She turned. Her face was a mask of pity. "Oh, Dad," she said. Again. "You lost them yesterday, remember? You left them in the garden. We looked for an hour, but we could not find them. You really need to be more careful. Your memory is getting worse every day." I stared at her. So, I had not been in this garden yesterday. I had been in the basement all day. She was lying to my face, trying to make me doubt my own mind. "I must have forgotten," I said softly. I played the part. I let my shoulders slump. I let my hand tremble. "It is okay, Dad," she said. She patted my arm. "It is just part of aging. We will help you. Hunter says we should make an appointment with a specialist, just to check your cognitive decline." Cognitive decline. The script was written. They were setting the stage. Later that afternoon, I went to look for my wallet. It was usually in my back pocket. It was gone. I searched the basement. I searched the bathroom. Hunter came down the stairs. He was holding my wallet. "Looking for this, Booker?" he asked. He tossed it to me. I caught it. "Where was it?" I asked. "In the refrigerator," Hunter said. "You put it in the crisper drawer next to the lettuce. I guess you thought it needed to stay cool." He laughed. It was a cold, mocking sound. The refrigerator. He thought I was stupid enough to believe I put my wallet in the fridge. Man, you are really losing it, Hunter said. First the glasses, now this. Maybe it is time we took over the finances, Booker. You are obviously not capable of handling your money anymore. You might throw it in the trash thinking it is recycling. I looked down at my wallet. I opened it. The cash was gone. $40. He had stolen $40 and gaslighted me in the same breath. I guess you are right, I said. My mind is just not what it used to be. I am so confused lately. Hunter smiled. It was the smile of a wolf watching a wounded deer. Do not worry, Booker, he said. We will take care of everything. You just rest. I waited until he went back upstairs. Then I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. I pulled out my backup glasses. I pulled out my backup wallet. I pulled out my journal. I wrote it all down. Date June 12th. Incident 1, stolen glasses. Claimed lost in garden. Incident 2, stolen wallet. Stolen. Placed in refrigerator. Cash removed. Objective: create a history of dementia. Establish grounds for power of attorney. I closed the book. I looked at the camera feed. Hunter was high-fiving Ebony in the living room. They thought it was working. They thought I was crumbling. They did not know I was documenting every brick they pulled from the wall. That evening, the escalation turned dangerous. Psychological torture was not moving fast enough for Hunter. He needed results. He needed me pliable. I was sitting in my chair reading a book on structural dynamics with my backup glasses. I heard footsteps on the stairs. I quickly hid the glasses and the book. I slumped in the chair, staring blankly at the wall. Hunter came down. He was carrying a tray. On it was a steaming mug of tea. "Hey, Booker," he said. His voice was overly bright. "Fake. I made you some herbal tea. Ebony says it helps with memory and relaxation. It is a special blend. Chamomile and valerian root. Drink up. It will help you sleep." He placed the mug on the table. Steam rose from it. "Thanks, Hunter," I said. "That is very thoughtful." He stood there. He did not leave. He watched me. He wanted to see me drink it. "It is best when it is hot," he urged. "Go ahead, take a sip." I lifted the mug. The aroma hit me. Beneath the floral scent of the chamomile, there was something else. Something sharp and metallic. A bitter undertone that reminded me of almond extract. I knew that smell. I had worked with industrial solvents. I knew what sedatives smelled like when they were dissolved in hot water. I brought the cup to my lips. I pretended to blow on it. "It is too hot," I said. "My tongue is sensitive. I need to let it cool down." Hunter tapped his foot. He was impatient. "Just drink it, Booker. Stop being difficult." I looked at him. I saw the tension in his jaw. I saw the sweat on his upper lip. "I will drink it in a minute," I said. "I promise. I just need to use the bathroom first." Hunter sighed. "Fine. But drink it before it gets cold. We need you rested for tomorrow. We have a lot of paperwork to go over." He turned and went upstairs. He stopped at the top of the stairs to look back, ensuring I was still there. Once the door clicked shut, I moved fast. I picked up the mug. I walked to the corner of the basement where Etta had left a large potted snake plant. It was a tough plant. It had survived neglect and darkness. I poured the tea into the soil, every drop. Then I went to the bathroom and flushed the toilet to make noise. I came back and sat down with the empty mug. 10 minutes later, Hunter came back down. He saw the empty mug. He smiled. "Good job, Booker," he said. "Feeling sleepy yet?" "A little," I said. I let my eyelids droop. I slurred my words slightly. "I feel heavy," Perfect Hunter said. "You just sleep, old man. We will handle everything in the morning." He took the mug and left. I waited an hour. I checked the cameras. Hunter and Ebony were in the living room. Hunter was setting up a tripod. He was adjusting a video camera. "She needs to ask him questions," Hunter was saying. "Get him confused. Get him to say he does not know what day it is. Once the drugs kick in, he will be drooling. We will record it. We will show it to the judge. It is a slam dunk for incompetency." I felt a cold rage settle in my gut. They had drugged me, or tried to. They wanted to parade me in front of a camera like a circus animal and strip me of my dignity. I looked at the snake plant. I watched it. By the next morning, the leaves were yellow. The stalks were drooping. The plant was dying. Whatever was in that tea was potent. It was toxic. They were not just gaslighting me, they were poisoning me. I took a picture of the dead plant. I took a sample of the soil and put it in a plastic bag. I labeled it Exhibit C, Attempted Poisoning. I put the bag in the lockbox. I looked at the camera feed again. Hunter was asleep on the couch. The camera was still set up on the tripod waiting for its star. I sat in the dark and I plotted. They wanted a show. They wanted a confused, helpless old man. I would give them a performance, but it would not be the one they expected. I was going to invite an audience. I was going to turn their little home movie into a blockbuster disaster. The next phase of my plan required a catalyst. It required a party. If they wanted to celebrate my demise, I would let them throw the party, and then I would blow out the candles. The basement door opened with a screech of rusty hinges that echoed like a warning shot. I was sitting at my workbench soldering a circuit board for a motion sensor I intended to install near the liquor cabinet. I did not look up immediately. I let them stand there in the gloom. It was a power move I had learned from a foreman in 1985. Make them wait. Make them uncomfortable. Hunter cleared his throat. It was a wet, nervous sound. Booker, he said. Booker, Hitab. His voice was too loud for the small space. We have a visitor. I turned my swivel chair slowly. Hunter was standing at the bottom of the stairs. Next to him was a man I had never seen before. He was short. He was sweating despite the cool air of the basement. He wore a suit that was 2 sizes too big and made of a synthetic fabric that shined under the fluorescent lights. His shoes were scuffed. His tie was stained with what looked like mustard. This is Mike, Hunter said. He gestured to the man with a wave of his hand. He is a friend of the family, a specialist in what I asked. My voice was level. Psychology, Mike said. He stepped forward and extended a damp hand. I did not take it. I looked at his fingernails. They were bitten down to the quick. Hunter tells me you have been having some trouble adjusting, Mike continued. He pulled his hand back and wiped it on his trousers. Memory lapses, confusion, aggression. We just want to have a chat, a friendly evaluation. I looked at Hunter. He was smirking. He thought he had brought in a heavy hitter. He thought this man in a cheap suit was going to sign my life away. Evaluation, I said. Is that what we are calling it? It is just a formality, Hunter said. He leaned against the support beam. Mike here is a certified geriatric specialist. He is going to ask you a few questions, just to make sure you are firing on all cylinders, old man. I put down my soldering iron. I turned off the magnifying lamp. I folded my hands in my lap. Proceed, I said. Mike pulled a folding chair from the corner. He dragged it across the concrete floor. The sound was excruciating. He sat down facing me. He pulled a notepad from his pocket. It was not a medical chart. It was a spiral-bound notebook from a dollar store. Mr. Hayes, Mike began. Do you know what year it is? It is 2024, I said. Good, Mike said. He made a show of writing it down. And who is the current president of the United States? I answered him. Okay, Mike said. He licked his lips. He looked at Hunter, then back at me. Now, Mr. Hayes, these next questions might seem a bit personal, but they are standard for your condition. My condition, I asked. Dementia, Mike said. He said the word with a casual cruelty. Hunter tells me you have been forgetting basic hygiene. He says you sometimes forget where the bathroom is. Do you soil yourself, Mr. Hayes? The question hung in the air. It was designed to humiliate. It was designed to make me angry. If I shouted, if I got defensive, they would say I was agitated. They would say I was unstable. I looked at Mike. I looked at his cheap watch. I looked at the sweat beading on his upper lip. I do not soil myself, Mike, I said. But I am curious. Since you are a medical professional, you must be aware of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Mike blinked. He stopped writing. What? HIPAA, I said. Federal law. It protects patient privacy. It also requires specific protocols for medical evaluations. Protocols you are currently violating by conducting a psychiatric assessment in a basement without a clean environment, without consent, and with a third-party observer present. Mike shifted in his chair. The metal legs scraped the floor. This is an informal assessment, he stammered. There is no such thing as an informal assessment when the goal is to declare legal incompetency, I said. I leaned forward. The light from my workbench lamp hit my face. I let him see my eyes. They were not the eyes of a confused old man. Furthermore, I continued. I noticed you did not introduce yourself with a title. Are you a psychiatrist? A psychologist? a clinical social worker. I am a counselor, Mike said. His voice was getting higher. A counselor, I repeated. Interesting. In this state, a counselor requires a license from the Board of Behavioral Sciences. What is your license number, Mike? Mike froze. He looked at Hunter. Hunter's face had gone red. He does not need to give you that, Hunter snapped. Just answer the questions, Booker. Actually, he does, I said. Under State Code Section 4990, any practitioner must display or provide their license number upon request. Failure to do so is a misdemeanor. Practicing without a license is a felony. I stood up. I am 6 feet 2 inches tall. I spent my life lifting steel. I still have broad shoulders. Mike shrank back in his chair. So, Mike, I asked, are we going to continue this felony, or are you going to leave my house before I call the state board and report a fraud? Mike stood up so fast his chair tipped over. It crashed onto the concrete. I did not sign up for this, Hunter, Mike said. His voice was shaking. You said he was senile. You said he was a vegetable. This guy knows the law better than I do. Shut up, Mike, Hunter hissed. He pushed off the support beam. He walked toward me. He invaded my personal space. I could smell the stale alcohol on his breath. Stop playing lawyer, Booker, Hunter said. He poked me in the chest. A hard, painful jab. You think you are smart. You are just a confused old man who does not know what is good for him. Mike here says you are incompetent. That is all I need. I just need him to sign the paper. I looked at Mike. He was backing toward the stairs. I am leaving, Mike said. I am not losing my license for $200. $200. That was the price of my freedom. Hunter had hired a budget fraud to steal my life. Get back here, Mike, Hunter shouted. He did not look at Mike. He kept his eyes on me. His pupils were dilated. He was losing control. The narrative was collapsing. You are ruining everything, Hunter whispered to me. Just like you always do. You think you are better than me. You think you are the big, successful man, and I am just the screw-up. I never said that, I said calmly. You did not have to say it. Hunter screamed. Spittle flew from his mouth. It is in your eyes. Every time you look at me, you judge me. You think I am not good enough for your daughter. Well, guess what, old man? I own this house now. I own you. He shoved me. It was not a poke this time. It was a two-handed shove with all his weight behind it. I was standing near the workbench. I let myself stumble. I let myself fall. I hit the floor hard. My hip struck the concrete. Pain shot up my leg. It was real pain, but I did not cry out. I stayed down. I sprawled on the floor next to the fallen chair. I looked up at him. You just assaulted a senior citizen, I said. My voice was calm, dangerous. Hunter's face twisted. He realized what he had done, but instead of backing down, he doubled down. He decided to rewrite reality in real time. He started screaming. Help, Hunter yelled. He looked toward the stairs as if performing for an audience. Help, Ebony. He is going crazy. He is attacking me. He grabbed his own shirt and ripped the collar. He scratched his own neck until it bled. Get off me! Hunter screamed at the empty air. He kicked the workbench. Tools clattered to the floor. You are insane, old man, Hunter shouted, looking down at me. You tried to hit me. Mike saw it. Mike is a witness. He turned to where Mike had been standing, but the stairs were empty. The basement door was swinging shut. Mike was gone. Hunter looked back at me. He was breathing hard. His chest was heaving. He looked wild. It does not matter, he hissed. It is my word against yours. And who are they going to believe? The young, successful businessman or the old man who thinks people are stealing his glasses? I lay on the floor. I adjusted my left cuff. On my wrist, I wore a smartwatch. It was not a luxury item like Hunter Rolex. It was a tactical tool. I had pressed the side button the moment Hunter poked me. It had been recording for 3 minutes. I have the assault. I have the confession. I have the threats. I groaned. I held my hip. You hurt me, Hunter, I said. Good, Hunter said. Maybe that will knock some sense into you. Stay down there. Think about your options. Because tomorrow I am bringing a doctor who won't scare so easy, and if you try anything like this again, I will put you in the ground myself. He turned and stormed up the stairs. He slammed the basement door. I heard the lock click. He had locked me in. I sat up slowly. I checked my hip. It was bruising but not broken. I checked the watch. I stopped the recording. I saved the file. I named it Assault Protocol. I stood up. I walked to my computer. I uploaded the file to the cloud server. I sent a copy to Mrs. Kowalski. Then I picked up the phone. Not to call the police. Not yet. I called Vinny the Shark. I had found his number in the call logs I intercepted last night. It rang 3 times. A gruff voice answered. Yeah. This is not Hunter, I said. This is the man whose house he promised you. There was silence on the line. I am listening, the voice said. Hunter is lying to you, I said. He does not own the house. He never will. He is broke. He is desperate. And he is about to go to jail for elder abuse. If you want your money, you are barking up the wrong tree. Who is this? The voice asked. This is the guy who has $5 million in a blind trust, I said. And I am the guy who was throwing a party on Saturday. Hunter invited you, right? Yeah, he did, the voice said. Said we would celebrate the transfer of the deed. Come to the party, I said. Come early. I have a business proposition for you. One that does not involve breaking my legs. You want to pay his debt? The voice asked. No, I said. I want to buy his debt. I want to own it. And then I want to collect. The voice laughed. It was a dry sound like sandpaper on concrete. I like you, old man. I will be there. I hung up. I looked at the locked door at the top of the stairs. Hunter thought he had trapped me. He thought he had won the round. He did not know I had just bought the stadium. Saturday was coming. The anniversary party, the stage was set, the actors were ready, and I was going to bring the house down. I sat on the cot in the corner of the basement and rubbed my bruised hip. The concrete walls felt closer than they had yesterday. The air was stale. My watch told me it was 10 in the morning, but down here it was always midnight. I heard footsteps upstairs, quick light steps, ebony, heavy stomping steps. Hunter. They were moving around my kitchen, drinking my coffee, planning my demise. It was time to pull the trigger. I walked to the stairs. I did not pound on the door. I scratched at it. A weak, desperate sound, like an animal trapped in a wall. Ebony, I called out. My voice was a croak. Ebony, please. I am confused. The footsteps stopped. I heard whispering. Then the lock clicked. The door opened a crack. Ebony peered down into the gloom. She looked guilty. Good. Guilt is a lever. Dad, she said. Are you okay? I let my legs tremble. I leaned against the railing as if it were the only thing holding me up. I do not know, honey, I said. I had a bad dream. Or maybe it was real. I thought Mike was here. I thought I fell. My head is swimming, Ebony. I cannot remember what is real anymore. Ebony opened the door wider. She came down a few steps. It is okay, Dad, she said. You just had a rough night. Hunter said you were agitated. He locked the door for your safety. He did not want you wandering off. For my safety. They locked me in a dungeon for my safety. I think he is right, I said. I lowered my head. I am losing it, Ebony. The dates, the names. It is all slipping away. I do not want to be a burden. I do not want to be dangerous. Ebony's face softened. She saw surrender. She saw the obstacle crumbling. I want to sign, I said. Her eyes widened. Really, Dad? Yes, I said, but I want to do it right. I want to say goodbye to this house properly. Tomorrow is your mother anniversary. I want to have a party, a celebration of her life. And at the end of the night, I will sign the deed over to you and Hunter. I will announce it to everyone. I want everyone to know that the legacy is safe with you. Ebony smiled. It was the first genuine smile I had seen in days. It was the smile of a woman who just won the lottery. A party, she said. That sounds beautiful, Dad. Mom would love that. Go tell Hunter, I said. Tell him I am ready to retire. Tell him he won. She ran up the stairs. She left the door open. I listened. Hunter, she squealed. He is cracking. He wants to sign. He wants a party. I heard Hunter laugh. It was a bark of triumph. A party, he said. Hell yes, we will have a party. We will throw the biggest bash this town has ever seen. We will celebrate my new empire. I walked back to my desk. I sat down. I opened the laptop. I watched them on the screen. Hunter was already on the phone. He was not calling a caterer yet. He was calling his audience. Hey boys, he shouted into his cell phone. You busy Saturday? Cancel it. You are coming to the Hayes estate. Yeah, my estate. The old man is handing over the keys. We are going to pop bottles. Bring everyone. I want witnesses. I want people to see me take the throne. He was inviting his cronies, the low-level hustlers, the guys he owed money to. He wanted to show off. He wanted to prove he was a big shot. He was building a stage for his own execution, and he did not even know it. Then he made the mistake that would seal his fate legally. He pulled out his wallet. He pulled out the black credit card he had opened in my name, the one with the $15,000 limit that was nearly maxed out. He called a high-end catering company, the one that did the mayor inauguration. "I want the platinum package," he said. "Lobster, filet mignon, top shelf open bar, spare no expense. Put it on the card. Name on the card is Booker Hayes. Yeah, that is me. I am the owner." I watched the transaction hit my credit alert system in real time. $5,000, authorization pending. I could have blocked it. I could have called the bank right then, but I did not. I let it go through. "Let him dig," I whispered. "Let him spend. Every dollar is another year on his sentence. Grand larceny, identity theft, fraud." He hung up. He high-fived Ebony. "We are rich, baby," he yelled. "We made it." He sat down at my kitchen table. He put his feet up on the wood. He looked like a king. I turned away from the screen. I had my own calls to make. I picked up the burner phone I had bought cash months ago. I dialed a number I had memorized. ProGuard Security. "This is Booker Hayes," I said. "I need a team for Saturday night. 6 men, armed, plain clothes. I want them invisible until I give the signal." "Mr. Hayes," the voice on the other end said. "We usually require a deposit and a contract week in advance. I wired $10,000 to your account 5 minutes ago," I said. "Check it." There was a pause. Then the tapping of keys. "Payment received, Mr. Hayes. We are at your disposal. What are the rules of engagement?" "Perimeter control," I said. "No one enters without an invite. And once the doors close at 8 p.m., no one leaves. Not until the police arrive." "Police?" the voice asked. "That is the finale," I said. "Your job is to make sure the guests of honor do not slip out the back door when the fireworks start." "Understood, sir. We will be there at 6. I hung up. One team secured. Next, I called Jim, Sheriff Jim Miller. We had played high school football together in 1970. We fished for bass every 3rd Sunday of the month. He was the only man in town who knew I had turned down a job at the Pentagon to stay close to Etta. "Jim," I said. "Booker," Jim answered. His voice was warm. "Long time no see." "I heard you had some family in town." "I do," I said. "And that is why I am calling. I need you to come to a party on Saturday, Jim. But do not wear your fishing vest. Wear the badge. And bring the deputies." "Is everything okay?" Booker Jim asked. His tone shifted instantly from friend to lawman. "No, Jim," I said. "It is not. I have a situation. I have evidence of multiple felonies. Elder abuse, grand theft, conspiracy. I'm going to serve it up on a silver platter Saturday night. I need you there to take out the trash." Jim was silent for a moment. He trusted me. He knew I did not cry wolf. "I will be there, Booker," he said. "Just tell me when." 9 p.m., I said. "Come in quietly. Park down the street. When you hear the music stop, come through the front door." "Copy that," Jim said. "Watch your back." "Booker." "I am watching it, Jim," I said. "I have been watching it for a long time." I hung up. 2 teams secured. Now for the wild card. I picked up the phone one last time. I dialed Vinny. I heard the ring. I heard the pickup. "Yeah." "Vinny," I said. "It is Booker. The party is Saturday. 7 p.m. "I will be there," Vinny said. "Good," I said. "Bring the promissory note Hunter signed. Bring the texts. Bring every piece of leverage you have on him." "Why?" Vinny asked. "Because I am going to pay you," I said. "But I am not going to pay you with cash. I am going to pay you with satisfaction. Hunter told you he owns this house. He told you I am senile. On Saturday, I am going to prove to you and everyone else that he is a liar and a thief, and when I am done with him, he will not have a penny to pay you." Vinny laughed. It was a low, dark sound. "If he cannot pay me, I am going to break his legs, old man." "You can do whatever you want with him after the police are done with him," I said. "But if you want to see a man destroyed without lifting a finger, you come to my house." "I am intrigued," Vinny said. "I will bring the paperwork." I put the phone down. The board was set. The pieces were moving. Upstairs, the music was blaring. Hunter was celebrating. He thought he was the puppet master. He thought he was pulling the strings on a confused old man. He did not know the strings were actually nooses. And on Saturday night, I was going to kick the chair out from under him. I walked over to the corner of the basement where my old tuxedo hung in a garment bag. I unzipped it. It smelled of cedar and mothballs. I brushed the lapel. I was going to look my best. Etta would have wanted that. This was not just a party. It was a funeral for the man my daughter married, and I was going to deliver the eulogy. Saturday evening arrived with the humidity of a storm waiting to break. I stood in the shadow of the back porch door watching my garden transform into a carnival of greed. Hunter had spared no expense because it was not his money he was spending. He had hired a lighting crew to string Edison bulbs through the old oak trees Etta and I had planted 40 years ago. He had rented white Chiavari chairs and tables covered in linens that cost more to rent for one night than I spent on groceries in a month. The catering staff moved like ants carrying trays of lobster tails and Wagyu beef sliders. I watched them set up a champagne tower near the rose bushes. The crystal glasses, stacked 6 levels high, glinted under the artificial lights. It was precarious. One wrong move and the whole thing would shatter. It was a perfect metaphor for Hunter life. Hunter stood in the center of the patio greeting guests. He was wearing an Armani tuxedo. I knew it was Armani because I had seen the charge on my credit card alert system yesterday. $3,500. It was a midnight blue shawl collar suit that was tailored to within an inch of its life. He looked handsome. He looked successful. He looked like a man who owned the world. Next to him stood Ebony. She was wearing a silver sequined gown that was too tight and too flashy for a backyard garden party. Around her neck, she wore a necklace of large, clear stones. From a distance, they sparkled. From where I stood, I could see the dull refraction of cubic zirconia, costume jewelry. She had traded a ruby worth a fortune for glass worth $50. She was laughing too loud. Her hand gripped a champagne flute so hard I thought the stem would snap. She looked terrified. I scanned the crowd. It was a grotesque mix of people. There were neighbors who looked confused by the sudden opulence. There were Hunter old fraternity brothers who were drinking my scotch straight from the bottle. And then there were the others, the men in ill-fitting suits standing near the perimeter. Vinny crew. I saw Vinny standing near the hydrangeas. He was eating a shrimp skewer. He looked bored. He looked dangerous. He caught my eye through the window. He did not wave. He just nodded once. He was waiting for his payment. Near the back gate, hidden in the shadows of the hedges, I saw the outline of a man. It was the lead officer from ProGuard Security. He gave me a subtle hand signal. The perimeter was secure. No one was getting out. I adjusted my own tie. I was wearing the black tuxedo Etta had bought me for the engineers' gala 10 years ago. It was classic. It was wool. It smelled of lavender and dignity. I checked my pocket. The microphone remote was there. I checked my other pocket. The ruby necklace was there, wrapped in a silk handkerchief. It was time to join the party. I opened the door and stepped out. The noise hit me first. The chatter of 100 people, the clinking of glass, the thumping bass of a DJ Hunter had hired. No one noticed me at first. I was just the old man in the background, the prop. I walked to the edge of the crowd. I watched my son-in-law holding court. He was telling a story to a group of men. He was gesturing wildly with a cigar in his hand. "Yeah, we are going to gut the whole first floor," he said. "Open concept. Modern. Get rid of all this antique junk. We want a fresh start." I clenched my jaw. He was talking about demolishing my life while standing on my grass. Ebony saw me. Her eyes widened. She rushed over. "Dad," she hissed. "You are finally here." She looked me up and down. She smoothed my lapel. Her hands were shaking. "You look nice," she said, "but please do not say anything weird tonight. Just smile. Shake hands. And when Hunter calls you up, just sign the papers." "Okay." I looked at my daughter. I saw the fear in her eyes. She knew this was wrong. She knew she was betraying me, but she was too weak to stop it. "I will do what needs to be done, Ebony," I said. She interpreted that as compliance. She sighed with relief. "Good," she said. "Just sit over there. We will call you when it is time." She pointed to a chair in the corner away from the main action. It was the kids' table, essentially. I sat down. I waited. I watched Hunter drain his glass and signal the DJ to cut the music. The music died. A feedback squeal ripped through the speakers. Hunter tapped the microphone. "Testing, testing," he boomed. He loved the sound of his own voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, everyone grab a glass," he shouted. "We have a big announcement." The crowd quieted down. They turned toward the small stage Hunter had erected over my vegetable patch. Hunter stood there beaming. He looked at Ebony. He beckoned her up. She climbed the stairs nervously. He put his arm around her. It looked possessive, not affectionate. Thank you all for coming tonight, Hunter began. His voice was smooth, practiced. We are here to celebrate family. We are here to celebrate legacy. He paused for effect. He looked out at the crowd with a fake solemnity. You all know this has been a hard year for the Hayes family, he said. Losing Etta was a blow we are still recovering from, and watching Booker struggle has been heartbreaking. He pointed at me sitting in the corner. A spotlight swung over and blinded me. I did not blink. I sat stone still. My father-in-law is a great man, Hunter continued, a builder, a provider. But time comes for us all. We have seen him slow down. We have seen the confusion, the forgetfulness. It is heavy to carry the burden of a legacy alone. He shook his head sadly. That is why Ebony and I moved back, to shoulder that burden, to take the weight off his tired shoulders. He smiled again, a bright, shark-like grin. Tonight we are making it official. Booker has decided to retire. He has decided to pass the torch to the next generation. He is entrusting us with his home, his assets, and his future. We are going to take this family into the 21st century. There was polite applause. Vinny did not clap. He just chewed his toothpick. We have big plans, Hunter said, his voice rising. We are launching a new development firm using this property as our anchor. We are going to build something Etta would be proud of. He looked at me with triumph. His eyes said, I beat you, old man. I took your house. I took your money. I took your daughter. And you are going to thank me for it. So without further ado, Hunter said, I would like to invite my father-in-law, Booker Hayes, to the stage to sign the transfer deeds and say a few words. Come on up, Booker. Do not be shy. The crowd clapped louder. They thought they were witnessing a touching family moment. They thought they were seeing a passing of the guard. I stood up. I buttoned my jacket. I walked through the crowd. The guests parted for me. Some patted my back. Some whispered, poor old guy. I walked up the stairs to the stage. I stood next to Hunter. He towered over me in his heels and his arrogance. He thrust a pen at me. Here you go, Booker, he whispered off mic. Just sign the X and get off the stage. Do not embarrass us. I took the pen. I looked at it. It was a Mont Blanc. Another purchase on my credit card, no doubt. I put the pen in my pocket. Hunter frowned. What are you doing? He hissed. Sign it. I reached for the microphone. Hunter held on to it tight. He did not want to let go. I am just going to say a few words first, Hunter, I said into the mic. My voice boomed across the garden. You said I could say a few words. Hunter looked at the crowd. They were watching. He could not wrestle me for the mic without looking like a monster. He forced a smile. He let go. Of course, Booker, he said. Go ahead. Keep it short. I stood center stage. I looked out at the faces. I saw my neighbors. I saw my friends. I saw the predators. I adjusted my tie. I stood up to my full height. The stoop was gone. The tremors were gone. The confusion was gone. I looked at Hunter. I looked at Ebony. Before I signed these papers, I said, my voice was steady. It was the voice of the man who used to command construction crews on skyscrapers. I want to tell you a story. The crowd went silent. The tone had shifted. They felt it. I want to tell you about a necklace, I said. Ebony froze. Her hand went to her throat. A ruby necklace, I continued. It belonged to my wife, Etta. It was the last thing she owned. She left it to me. It was in a drawer in my bedroom. I paused. I looked directly at Hunter. 2 days ago, my son-in-law borrowed my drill to fix a hinge, or so he said. Instead, he used the noise to break into my drawer. He stole that necklace. A murmur went through the crowd. Hunter's face turned red. He is confused, Hunter shouted, stepping forward. He is having an episode. Someone get him water. I raised my voice. I overpowered him. And then I continued. He and my daughter took that necklace to a pawn shop. They sold it for $2,000. And they used that money to fly to Hawaii and stay at the Four Seasons. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out a remote control. I pointed it at the white sheet Hunter had set up for a slideshow of family photos. I pressed the button. The image on the screen changed. It was no longer a photo of Etta. It was the Facebook post. Hunter with his cocktail, Ebony smiling, the caption about escaping the gloom. The date stamp was clearly visible. 2 days ago. The crowd gasped. It was a physical sound, a suck of air. "That is a lie," Hunter screamed. He lunged for me. He tried to grab the remote, but I was ready. I sidestepped him. I was faster than he thought. "And that watch he is wearing," I said, pointing at Hunter's wrist. "He bought it with the money left over from selling his mother-in-law legacy." Hunter covered his watch instinctively. It was an admission of guilt. "Dad, stop!" Ebony cried. She ran toward me. "You are ruining everything." "I am not ruining anything," I said. "I am just reading the minutes of the meeting." I pressed the button again. The screen changed. It was a bank statement, blown up to 10 feet tall. It showed the transactions, the flight, the hotel, the watch. And then next to it, a new document appeared. It was the credit card application. "And this party," I said, gesturing to the champagne tower. "The lobster, the suit Hunter is wearing. He did not pay for it. He opened 3 credit cards in my name. He stole my identity. He spent $45,000 of my money in 3 weeks." The murmur turned into a roar. People were talking, pointing. "This man is not a businessman," I said. "He is a thief, he is a fraud, and he is broke." I looked at Vinny. He had stepped out of the shadows. He was walking toward the stage. His face was thunder. Hunter saw him. Hunter's face went from red to white in a second. "Booker, stop!" Hunter pleaded. His voice was a whisper now. "Please, you do not know what you are doing." "Oh, I know exactly what I am doing," I said. I pressed the button one last time. The screen went black. Then a video appeared. It was grainy, night vision. It was the footage from the basement, the Vinny protocol. Hunter's voice filled the garden. "He is feeble, Vinny. He is losing it. I have him living in the basement like a troll. I am going to get him to sign over the deed." The audio was crisp. The words hung in the air like smoke. I turned to Hunter. "You wanted the deed," I said. "You wanted the house." I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the necklace. I held it up. The ruby caught the light. It shone like a drop of blood. "But you forgot the most important thing, Hunter. Etta was smarter than you. She put a clause in the trust. A poison pill." Hunter stared at the necklace. His eyes were bulging. "You sold this for $2,000, I said. "But inside this stone is a key. A key to a trust fund worth $5 million. $5 million. The number floated over the crowd. And the clause says, I continued, that if the necklace is sold by anyone other than me, the beneficiary loses everything. I looked at Ebony. She was sobbing. She was looking at the necklace as if it were a lost child. "You had it all," I said. "You had the kingdom, and you traded it for a vacation." I dropped the microphone. It hit the stage with a thud. The party was over. The execution had begun. I stood on the stage, and the white sheet behind me became a canvas of truth. I pressed the button on the remote again. The image shifted. It was no longer the bank statement showing the debts. It was a split-screen image that I had prepared with the help of my private investigator. On the left side was a high-resolution scan of a receipt. It was dated 4 days ago. It was from Levi Fine Jewelry. The item description read, "1 vintage ruby pendant gold chain." The amount paid was exactly $2,000. At the bottom was a signature, a scrawl I had seen on birthday cards and loan applications for 5 years. Hunter's signature. On the right side of the screen was a breakdown of the costs for the Hawaii trip, the flight, the suite, the rental car. The total was $19,400. The visual math was brutal. It was simple arithmetic that even a child could understand. He had sold a family heirloom for $2,000 and spent nearly $20,000 of stolen money to celebrate the sale. The crowd stared at the screen. The whispers turned into a collective murmur of disbelief. They were doing the math too. They were realizing that the man standing in the Armani tuxedo was not a tycoon. He was a parasite who had burned down a cathedral to fry an egg. Hunter's face was a mask of terror. He looked at the screen, and then he looked at Vinny. Vinny was not looking at the screen. He was looking at Hunter. He was doing his own math. He was realizing that the collateral for his loan, the house, the assets, the legacy, was smoke. "That is photoshopped," Hunter screamed. His voice cracked. It was a high, thin sound of panic. He pointed a shaking finger at me. "You old fraud. You made that up on your computer. You are trying to frame me." I did not answer him. I did not have to. I simply turned to the side of the stage where the shadows were deepest. "Levi," I said into the microphone, "would you please step forward?" The crowd parted. Levi walked through the garden. He was wearing his best suit. He held his hat in his hands. He walked with the slow, dignified gait of a man who has seen everything and is impressed by nothing. He climbed the stairs to the stage. He stood next to me. He looked small next to Hunter, but he felt heavy, like a block of granite. Hunter recoiled. He recognized Levi. He recognized the man he had sneered at, the man he had haggled with over a necklace. "Tell them, Levi," I said. "Tell them what he sold you." Levi took the microphone. His hand was steady. "This man came to my shop on Tuesday," Levi said. His voice was gravel and old iron. He threw a ruby necklace on the counter. He told me it was junk. He told me he wanted cash. He told me the owner was dead and would not miss it. A gasp went through the crowd. Ebony covered her mouth with her hand. She was crying harder now. Ugly sobbing. I offered him $2,000. Levi continued. It was a fraction of the value. But he took it. He laughed. He said it was free money. "You liar." Hunter shouted. He lunged. He moved fast. Desperation gave him speed. He reached for Levi. He wanted to hurt the witness. He wanted to stop the words, but he never touched him. Two men from the security detail stepped out from behind the curtain of the stage. They were large. They moved with professional efficiency. One of them caught Hunter by the arm. The other stepped in front of Levi. Hunter struggled. "Let go of me," he yelled. "This is my house. These are my guests." "No, Hunter," I said. "This is my house, and these people are witnesses to your confession." The security guard twisted Hunter's arm behind his back. Not enough to break it, just enough to immobilize him. Hunter bent forward, wincing in pain. He looked up at me. His eyes were wide with shock. He could not believe that the old man he had pushed around was now commanding a private army. I took the microphone back from Levi. "Thank you, Levi," I said. I looked at the crowd. They were silent now, terrified and fascinated. "You all heard it," I said. "He sold the necklace. He admitted it. He took the cash." I turned to the other side of the stage. "Mrs. Kowalski, if you please." Mrs. Kowalski stepped into the light. She was carrying a leather portfolio. She looked like a judge walking into a courtroom. She adjusted her glasses. She opened the portfolio. She took out a document with a blue cover. She walked to the microphone. She did not look at Hunter. She looked at Ebony. "Ebony Hayes," she said. Her voice was sharp, clear. "I am the executor of your mother estate. I drafted her last will and testament 10 years ago." Ebony looked up. Her mascara was running down her face. "Mrs. Kowalski," she whispered. "Your mother included a specific clause in the trust governing her assets." Mrs. Kowalski read from the document. Clause 4B, the poison pill protocol. She paused. She let the legal term sink in. It states that the entirety of the estate, including the commercial real estate portfolio valued at $5 million, is held in a blind trust. The beneficiary of this trust is the holder of the ruby pendant. Hunter stopped struggling. He froze. He listened. However, Mrs. Kowalski continued. If the pendant is sold or traded for monetary gain by the beneficiary or their spouse, the trust is immediately dissolved and the beneficiary rights are forfeited. The assets then revert to the secondary beneficiary. She looked at me. "Mr. Booker Hayes." The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavy. It pressed down on the garden like a physical weight. $5 million. Hunter's mouth opened. He looked at Ebony. He looked at me. He looked at the necklace shining in my hand. He had sold $5 million for $2,000. He had held the winning lottery ticket, and he had used it to light a cigarette. "That means," Mrs. Kowalski said, closing the folder, "that as of the moment you accepted the cash from Mr. Levi, you and your wife were disinherited. You own nothing. You are entitled to nothing. The house, the money, the future. It is all gone." Hunter made a sound. It was a strangulated whimper. His legs gave out. The security guard had to hold him up or he would have collapsed on the stage. "No," he whispered. "No. That is not legal. You cannot do that." "It is perfectly legal," Mrs. Kowalski said, "and it is irrevocable." Ebony fell to her knees in the grass. She buried her face in her hands. She understood. She finally understood the magnitude of her failure. She had betrayed her mother. She had betrayed her father. And for what? For a man who had just bankrupted her future. I walked to the edge of the stage. I looked down at Vinny. The loan shark was smiling. It was a cold, cruel smile. He took a sip of his drink. He nodded at me. He understood too. The collateral was gone. The mark was broke. I looked at the crowd. So I said. My voice was tired. I was tired of the anger. Tired of the victory. There will be no transfer of deeds tonight. There will be no new business. There is only the truth. And the truth is that my daughter and her husband are thieves. I pointed at the gate. The party is over. But the night was not. Because just as the words left my mouth, the sound of sirens cut through the air. Blue and red lights flashed against the trees. Sheriff Jim Miller was right on time. Hunter looked toward the driveway. He saw the police cruisers pulling in. He saw the uniforms. He realized then that poverty was the least of his problems. He started to cry. It was an ugly sound, a selfish sound. He was not crying for what he had done. He was crying for what was about to happen to him. And I watched him cry. I watched him break. And I felt nothing but the satisfaction of a job finished. The structure had failed. The demolition was complete. Now it was time to clear the debris. The silence in the garden did not last long. It was broken by the sound of crystal shattering against stone. Vinny, the loan shark, had dropped his champagne flute. He did not drop it by accident. He threw it. The sound was sharp and violent. It cut through the tension like a gunshot. Vinny stood up from his table near the hydrangeas. He wiped his hands on a napkin. He looked at Hunter with eyes that were empty of mercy. I watched the reaction ripple through the crowd. The guests near Vinny backed away. They sensed the violence radiating off him. Vinny walked toward the stage. He moved with the heavy, inevitable momentum of a wrecking ball. He stopped at the foot of the stairs. He looked up at Hunter. He did not look at me. He knew who owed him money. You told me you had the deed, Vinny said. His voice was low, but it carried across the yard. You told me the old man was a vegetable. You told me the house was yours, Hunter stammered. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. He looked at the security guards holding his arms. He looked at the flashing lights of the police cars filtering through the trees. He looked at Vinny. It is a mistake, Hunter squeaked. It is a trick, Vinny. The old man is lying. The necklace is worth millions. We can get it back. We can sue him. Vinny shook his head slowly. He reached into his jacket pocket. For a second, the crowd gasped, thinking he was reaching for a weapon. Instead, he pulled out a piece of paper. He unfolded it. It was the promissory note Hunter had signed. It was a contract written in blood and stupidity. You have no collateral, Vinny said. You have no assets. You have no house. And now you have no wife, because she just realized you bankrupt her. Vinny turned to his men, two large guys in cheap suits who had been standing by the buffet table. They stopped eating. They wiped their mouths. Vinny gave a subtle signal, a nod of the head toward the back gate. Block the exits, Vinny ordered. No one leaves until I get my money or something worth my money. The panic in the garden spiked. People started to move. They realized this was not just a family drama anymore. It was a hostage situation. The socialites and the neighbors looked at the exits. They saw Vinny men standing there, arms crossed, blocking the path. I watched from the stage. I was not afraid. I had pro-guard security. They were professionals. Vinny men were thugs. There was a difference. I signaled my lead security officer. He nodded. He moved his team into position, creating a wall between the guests and Vinny crew. But Vinny was not looking at the guests. He was looking at Hunter Wrist. He was looking at the Rolex Submariner, the watch bought with stolen money. That is mine, Vinny said, pointing at the watch. Give it to me, Hunter. It is a down payment on the interest you owe me. Hunter covered the watch with his hand. No, he whined. It is mine. You cannot take it. Vinny took a step up the stairs. The security guards holding Hunter tightened their grip. They were not there to protect Hunter from Vinny. They were there to make sure Hunter stood trial. But Vinny's presence added a volatile element to the equation. I stepped forward. I put myself between the shark and the bait, Vinny, I said. My voice was calm, authoritative. You are not taking the watch. That is evidence. It was purchased with the proceeds of a crime. It belongs to the police now. Vinny looked at me. He sized me up. He saw an old man in a tuxedo. He did not see the engineer who had reinforced the stage he was standing on. He sneered. Step aside, old man, Vinny said. I am taking what is owed to me. You are taking nothing, I said. The police are at the front door. If you touch him, you add assault and robbery to your rap sheet. Walk away, Vinny. Go back to the shadows. This score is settled. Vinny hesitated. He heard the sirens getting louder. He saw the flashing lights reflecting off the house windows. He was a predator, but he was also a businessman. He knew when a deal was dead. He looked at Hunter with pure disgust. "You are a dead man, walking," Hunter Vinny said quietly. "Find a safe cell, because if you end up in general population, I will find you." Vinny turned. He signaled his men. They moved away from the gate. They melted into the darkness, slipping away before the sheriff deputies could box them in. The immediate physical threat was gone, but the psychological dam had broken. Hunter watched Vinny leave. He realized his protection was gone. He realized his lies had been stripped away. He looked at the crowd. He saw their faces. There was no admiration left, only judgment, only pity. And then he snapped. The narcissist cannot handle exposure. When the mirror breaks, they do not reflect on their flaws. They attack the person holding the hammer. Hunter screamed. It was a primal sound of rage. He wrenched his arm free from the security guard on his left. He spun around. He was not trying to run. He was trying to kill. He lunged at me. "You ruined everything," Hunter roared. His face was purple veins bulging in his neck. "You tricked me, you senile old bastard. You set me up." He came at me with his hands reaching for my throat. He wanted to squeeze the life out of me. He wanted to silence the truth. The crowd screamed. Ebony shrieked. I did not move. I did not flinch. I stood my ground. I had spent 40 years on construction sites. I had faced down swinging steel beams and angry union bosses. I was not afraid of a soft-handed con artist in a rented suit. My lead security officer stepped in. He was fast. He intercepted Hunter mid-lunge. He grabbed Hunter's arm and twisted it behind his back, using the momentum to slam Hunter face first onto the wooden floor of the stage. The sound of the impact was satisfying. A dull thud followed by a groan. Hunter lay pinned to the floor, his cheek pressed against the wood, his expensive tuxedo tearing at the shoulder. "Get off me!" Hunter yelled, spitting blood. He struggled uselessly against the weight of the guard. "It is not fair." He lied to me. He pretended to be sick. He pretended to be weak. He entrapped me. I looked down at him. I adjusted my cufflinks. "I did not entrap you, Hunter," I said. "I just let you be yourself." Hunter looked up at me. His eyes were wild, manic. "You are the criminal," he shouted to the crowd. "You hear me? He is the one who is crazy. He is hoarding money while his family starves. He is abusive. He is a monster." The crowd was murmuring again. Confusion was spreading. Hunter was a good liar. He was charismatic. Even now pinned to the floor, he was trying to spin the narrative. He was trying to plant a seed of doubt. Maybe the old man was cruel. Maybe he was hoarding wealth unfairly. I saw the doubt on the faces of my neighbors. I saw Mrs. Gable form down the street, whispering to her husband. I needed to end this. I needed to show them the monster underneath the mask. I walked over to the DJ booth, which was set up at the back of the stage. The laptop was still open. The audio system was live. I plugged in my phone. I opened the folder marked Evidence. I found the file named Poison Protocol Y. Looked at Hunter. He saw what I was doing. He stopped struggling. His eyes went wide with a new kind of fear, the fear of absolute exposure. "Do not do it, Booker," he whispered. "Please." I pressed play. The sound of Hunter's voice boomed through the massive speakers. It was loud, crisp, clear. It filled the garden. It echoed off the house. It drowned out the sirens. The recording began with the sound of a spoon stirring in a cup, then Hunter's voice, casual, chilling. "Just drink it. Booker, it is a special blend. Chamomile and valerian root. It will help you sleep." Then my voice on the recording sounding weak. "It is too hot. I need to let it cool down." Then the sound of Hunter's footsteps walking away. Then the sound of liquid being poured into the dirt of the potted plant. The recording skipped forward to later that night. The audio quality changed. It was the conversation between Hunter and Ebony in the living room captured by the owl camera. Hunter's voice was impatient, cruel. "We make him really lose his mind. We switch his medications. We hide his things. We tell him he did things he did not do. In a month, any doctor will certify that he is mentally ill." The crowd gasped. It was a collective intake of breath that sucked the air out of the garden. The recording continued. "Once he is committed, we will have access to all his accounts. We can sell the house, collect his pension, and dispose of everything. Dispose of everything. The words hung in the humid night air, cruel and final. I stopped the recording. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the silence of a courtroom after a guilty verdict. It was the silence of a community realizing they had been drinking champagne with a sociopath. Hunter lay on the stage floor. He was not struggling anymore. He was sobbing. He was broken. The mask was gone. The victim narrative was dead. I walked back to the center of the stage. I looked at the crowd. I looked at my neighbors. "You heard him," I said. My voice was low, but it carried. He did not just want my money, he wanted my mind. He wanted to strip me of my sanity. He wanted to lock me away in a facility and drug me until I forgot my own name. I looked at Ebony. She was standing at the bottom of the stairs. She was pale, shaking. She looked at Hunter with horror. She had gone along with the plan, but hearing it played back in front of everyone stripped it of its justifications. It was not survival. It was evil. He tried to poison me, I said. I pointed to the potted snake plant in the corner of the patio. I had brought it up from the basement as an exhibit. It was brown, withered, dead. "That plant died yesterday," I said, "after I poured his special tea into it. Imagine what that tea would have done to me." A woman in the front row started to cry. It was a sound of pure empathy. Men were clenching their fists. The mood had shifted from confusion to rage. They wanted justice. They wanted blood. Hunter tried to speak. "It was just a sedative," he whimpered. "I just wanted him to sleep. I did not want to hurt him." "You wanted to erase me," I said. "You wanted to turn me into a ghost in my own life so you could live in my house and spend my money." I looked toward the back of the garden. The blue and red lights were reflecting off the faces of the guests. The police were here. Sheriff Miller was walking through the gate. He had heard the recording. He had heard enough. He walked through the crowd. The guests parted for him. He walked with the heavy purpose of the law. He climbed the stairs to the stage. He looked at Hunter pinned to the floor. He looked at me, Booker Jim said. "Jim," I said, "here is the trash I told you about." Jim nodded. He motioned for his deputies. They moved in. They pulled Hunter up from the floor. They pulled his arms back. They slapped the cuffs on his wrists. The sound of the ratcheting metal was the sweetest music I had ever heard. "Hunter Hayes." "You are under arrest," Jim said, "for grand larceny, identity theft, and attempted poisoning. You have the right to remain silent." Hunter started screaming again. He looked at Ebony. "Ebony, help me," he yelled. Tell them you knew. Tell them it was your idea too." He was throwing her under the bus. He was drowning and he was grabbing onto her ankle to pull her down with him. Ebony screamed, No, he is lying." I did not know about the poison. I did not know. But the crowd knew. The recording had captured her silence, her compliance. She was not innocent. She was an accessory. The deputies dragged Hunter down the stairs. He kicked. He screamed. He cursed me. He cursed Etta. He showed the world exactly who he was. I stood on the stage alone. The lights were bright. The air was hot, but I felt cold. I felt clean. The tumor had been cut out. The surgery was a success, but there was still one piece left on the board. One person who had to answer for her choices. I looked down at my daughter. She was on her knees in the grass. Her silver dress was stained. She was looking up at me, pleading with her eyes. She wanted mercy. She wanted her father to save her. But I was not her father. Tonight I was the judge, and court was still in session. The red and blue lights painted the garden in a chaotic rhythm. It was a strobe light show of justice illuminating the terrified faces of the guests. Sheriff Jim Miller stepped onto the stage. He did not look like my old fishing buddy tonight. He looked like the iron hand of the state. He wore his full uniform. His hand rested on his holster. Behind him, 3 deputies moved with military precision, creating a perimeter around the stage. They were not smiling. They were not there to partake in the lobster and champagne. They were there to clean up a crime scene. Hunter lay on the floorboards, breathing hard. He looked up at Jim. He tried to summon his arrogance, but it was gone. It had evaporated the moment Vinny walked away. Now he was just a man in a torn suit facing a decade in a concrete box. "Hunter Hayes," Jim said. His voice was loud enough to be heard over the sirens. "You are under arrest." Hunter tried to scramble backward. He pushed himself along the floor with his heels. "On what grounds?" he squeaked. "This is a civil dispute. You cannot arrest me for a family argument." Jim pulled a folded warrant from his belt. He snapped it open. "This is not a civil dispute, son," Jim said. "This is a felony indictment. I have a warrant here signed by Judge Patterson 30 minutes ago." He began to read. The list was long. It was a catalog of greed. Count 1, grand larceny. Theft of jewelry valued over $5,000. Count 2, identity theft. Opening 3 credit lines under the name of Booker Hayes without authorization or consent. Count 3, elder abuse. Financial exploitation of a senior citizen. Jim paused. He looked down at Hunter with pure disgust. "And count 4, Jim said. Attempted aggravated assault with intent to poison. We have the audio recording of you mixing a sedative into Mr. Hayes' beverage with the intent to incapacitate him." The crowd gasped again. Poison. The word floated over the manicured lawn. It turned the atmosphere from scandalous to murderous. The neighbors looked at Hunter not as a thief but as a predator, a man who would drug an old man in his own basement. Hunter shook his head violently. "No," he shouted. "That was just tea. It was herbal tea. I was trying to help him sleep." "Save it for the jury," Jim said. He nodded to his deputies. "Get him up." 2 deputies hauled Hunter to his feet. They did not be gentle. They grabbed him by the arms and wrenched him upright. Hunter's legs were like jelly. He could barely stand. He looked small. He looked pathetic. Jim pulled out his handcuffs. The metal glinted in the strobe lights. "Turn around," Jim ordered. Hunter did not turn around. He looked at the crowd. He looked for an ally. He looked for a way out. He saw Vinny standing by the gate watching with a cold smile. He saw the ProGuard security team blocking the exits. He saw me standing there impassive and untouched. And then he saw Ebony. She was standing at the bottom of the stairs, shaking, crying, holding her hands to her mouth. She looked terrified. Hunter's eyes changed. The fear turned into something uglier. It turned into blame. The rat was trapped and he was going to bite anyone he could to get free. "It was not me," Hunter screamed. He pointed a shaking finger at his wife. He pointed at my daughter. It was her. The accusation hung in the air. Ebony froze. Her eyes went wide. What she whispered. "She made me do it," Hunter yelled. He struggled against the deputies. He tried to lunge toward her. "She hates him. She hates her father. She told me he was ruining our lives. She told me he was hoarding the money." "Liar," Ebony screamed. Her voice was shrill. "You are a liar." "I am not lying," Hunter shouted back. His face was twisted with malice. "Who do you think told me where the necklace was, Ebony? Who showed me the false bottom in the drawer? I did not know it was there. She showed me." She stood guard while I took it. The crowd looked at Ebony. The judgment shifted. It spread. It covered her too. She wanted the money for Hawaii. Hunter continued. He was speaking fast, desperate to spread the guilt. She wanted the first-class tickets. She wanted the spa treatments. She told me the old man owed us. She said he was just wasting space. "Shut up," Ebony shrieked. She covered her ears. "Stop it." "He is the mastermind," Hunter yelled at Jim. "Arrest her." She is the one who wanted to put him in a home. She said he smelled like old people. She said she was sick of looking at him. I stood there and listened. It was painful. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. Hunter was lying about being the victim, but he was telling the truth about her involvement. He was using her words against her, the words I had heard on the recording, the words that had cut me deeper than any knife. Jim looked at me. He raised an eyebrow. He was asking if I wanted him to arrest her too. I shook my head slightly. Not yet. The police were for Hunter. The punishment for Ebony was going to be different. It was going to be personal. Jim tightened the cuffs on Hunter's wrists. The ratchet sound was loud and final. "You have the right to remain silent," Jim said. "I suggest you use it." They began to drag Hunter away. He kicked. He screamed. He was no longer the suave businessman in the Armani suit. He was a feral animal caught in a trap. It was her, he howled as they pulled him down the stairs. It was all her idea. They dragged him through the grass, past the champagne tower, past the shocked guests. Vinny watched him go. He tipped his glass in a mock salute. Then the garden was quiet again. The sirens were still flashing, but the screaming had stopped. All eyes turned to Ebony. She stood alone at the foot of the stage. Her husband was gone. Her allies were gone. Her future was gone. She looked up at me. I stood on the platform looking down. The physical distance between us was only a few feet, but the emotional distance was an ocean. She fell to her knees. It was not a graceful fall. It was a collapse. Her legs simply gave out. Her silver dress pooled around her on the grass, staining with dirt and moisture. She looked up at me. Her face was a ruin of makeup and tears. "Dad," she sobbed. "Daddy, please." I did not move. I did not offer a hand. I stood with my hands clasped behind my back, the posture of an engineer inspecting a failed foundation. "You have to believe me," Ebony cried. She crawled forward a few inches. She reached out toward my shoes. "I was manipulated, Dad. He brainwashed me. I did not want to do any of it." I looked down at her. I saw the little girl I had taught to ride a bike. I saw the teenager I had taught to drive. I saw the woman I had walked down the aisle. And I saw the stranger who had stood guard while a thief robbed her mother bedroom. "You are a victim?" I asked. My voice was cold. It was the temperature of deep earth. "Yes," she sobbed. "I am a victim. He made me think we had no choice. He said we needed the money. I was scared, Dad. I was just doing what my husband told me." I looked at the screen behind me. The image of the Hawaii receipt was still there. $19,000. Victims do not go to Hawaii. "Ebony," I said. She flinched. She pulled her hand back. "Victims do not drink cocktails at the Four Seasons paid for by selling their dead mother jewelry." I continued. "Victims do not stand in a hallway and tell their husband to hurry up because the old man is coming." "I did not mean it," she wailed. "I was stressed. I was not thinking." "You were thinking clearly enough to spend the money," I said. "You were thinking clearly enough to lie to my face when I asked you where the necklace was. You were thinking clearly enough to help him plan my eviction to the basement." "Dad, please," she begged. "I am your daughter. I am all you have left." I looked at the crowd. I saw Mrs. Kowalski standing with her arms crossed. I saw Levi shaking his head. I saw Jim watching from the gate. "You are my daughter," I said. "That is true. And that is why this hurts. If a stranger robbed me, I would just call the police. But you broke my heart, Ebony." I stepped down one stair. She looked hopeful. She thought I was coming to pick her up. She thought I was going to hug her and tell her it was okay. That is what I had done her whole life. I had always fixed it. But I stopped on the step. I looked her in the eye. "You said Mom was dead," I said. "You said the necklace was just a rock. You said I did not need it." She sobbed. "I was wrong. I am sorry." "Sorry does not buy back the legacy you sold," I said. "Sorry does not fix the betrayal." I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the necklace. I dangled it in front of her face. The ruby spun in the light. "This was your future," I said. "This was $5 million. It was security. It was freedom. Mom left it for you. She wanted you to be safe." Ebony reached for it. Her fingers grasped at the air. "But you did not value it," I said. "You valued a vacation more. You valued a thief more." I pulled the necklace back. I put it back in my pocket. "You chose him, Ebony. You chose his lies over my truth. You stood by him while he tried to destroy me. You are not a victim. You are an accomplice." "But he is gone now," she cried. "He is in jail. It is just us, Dad. We can start over." "No," I said. "We cannot." I looked at the house. My house. The house I built. "You have 24 hours, I said. She froze. "What?" "You have 24 hours to get your things and get out of my house," I said. "Dad, you cannot kick me out," she whispered. "I have nowhere to go. We gave up our apartment. We spent all our money. You spent my money," I corrected. "And you have plenty of places to go. You can go to a hotel. You can go to a shelter. You can go to Hawaii if you have any miles left. But you cannot stay here." "But I am your family," she screamed. "Family does not poison the tea," I said. "Family does not steal identity." I walked past her. I stepped onto the grass. The guests parted for me. They looked at me with respect. They looked at me with fear. I turned back one last time. Ebony was still on her knees. She looked small. She looked broken. "Take the things you bought with your own money," I said. "Leave the things you bought with my credit cards. I will be checking the bags." She stared at me. She realized finally that the bank of Dad was closed. The emotional credit limit had been reached. I walked toward the house. I walked toward the sanctuary of my home. Behind me I heard her wailing. It was the sound of a child who had broken her favorite toy and realized it could not be fixed. I did not look back. I had a house to clean. I had a life to reclaim. The party was over. The guests were leaving. The nightmare was ending. I walked through the back door and into the kitchen. It was quiet. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. I poured myself a glass of water. My hand was steady. I had lost a daughter tonight, but I had found myself. And as I drank the cool, clean water, I knew that Etta was watching, and I knew she was proud. The blue and red lights of the police cruisers continued to spin in the driveway, creating a strobe effect on the faces of the remaining guests. Hunter was in the back of the first squad car. He was thrashing against the window, screaming words I could not hear through the safety glass. He looked like a rabid animal trapped in a cage. His Armani tuxedo was torn at the shoulder. His hair was wild. The facade of the successful entrepreneur had completely dissolved, leaving only the desperate criminal underneath. I stood on the porch and watched. Sheriff Miller was talking to one of his deputies, handing over a bag of evidence that contained the recordings and the financial documents. But the humiliation for Hunter was not over yet. Vinny the loan shark stepped out of the shadows near the gate. He walked over to the black luxury SUV Hunter had rented to show off. It was parked prominently in the center of the driveway, blocking everyone else in. Vinny pulled a spare key from his pocket. Hunter must have given it to him days ago as a gesture of good faith, a promise that the car was part of the assets. Vinny signaled to one of his large associates. "Get in," Vinny said. "It is the only thing we are getting out of this mess." The associate climbed into the driver's seat. He revved the engine. The sound was aggressive, a mechanical roar that drew everyone's attention. Hunter saw it from the back of the police car. I saw him slam his face against the glass, shouting something about his car, his image, his life. Vinny looked at the police car and spit on the ground. Then he looked at the group of young men standing near the bar. These were Hunter's so-called business partners, the guys he drank with, the guys he bragged to. They were wearing expensive suits and holding drinks they had not paid for. "Hey," Vinny shouted at them. "You boys friends with the guy in the car?" The group scattered like cockroaches when the kitchen light turns on. One of them actually dropped his drink and walked fast toward the gate without looking back. Another pulled out his phone and pretended to take a call, walking into the bushes to escape association. No one stepped forward to defend Hunter. No one offered to pay his bail. No one claimed him. In the end, he was exactly what I knew him to be. Alone. A man who had built his kingdom on swampland. The tow truck arrived for the second car. The convertible Ebony had been driving. The repo man did not even ask for keys. He just hooked it up. The sound of the chains tightening was the sound of reality crashing down. Sheriff Miller walked over to me. He tipped his hat. "We got him," Booker Jim said. "The DA is already looking at the digital evidence you sent. With the attempted poisoning charge and the federal fraud, he is looking at 10 to 15 years, minimum." "Thank you, Jim," I said. "I appreciate you keeping it quiet until tonight." Jim looked at the back of the squad car. "He broke the law, Booker. But breaking your trust, that is the real crime. We will take it from here." The first cruiser pulled away. Hunter's face was pressed against the glass, his eyes wide with terror as he was driven away from the life he tried to steal. The repo truck followed, dragging the convertible. Vinny men drove off in the SUV. The driveway was suddenly empty. The party was over. The guests were filing out silently, avoiding my gaze. They were embarrassed to have been part of the charade. They were ashamed they had believed the lie. I turned my attention to the lawn. Ebony was still there. She was sitting on the grass, hugging her knees. Her silver dress was ruined. Her makeup was a mask of tragedy. She looked like a child waiting for her parents to come pick her up from a sleepover gone wrong. But her parents were already there, and her father had run out of patience. I walked down the steps. I stopped 5 feet from her. I did not kneel. I did not offer a hand. I stood tall, the engineer inspecting the damage after the storm. "Ebony," I said. My voice was flat, devoid of the warmth she was used to. She looked up. Her eyes were red. "Dad," she whispered. "I have nowhere to go. They took the car. They took Hunter. I have nothing. You have consequences," I said, "and you have 60 minutes. She blinked, confusion clouding her teary eyes. "What?" "You have 1 hour," I said. I looked at my watch. "It is 9:15. By 10:15, I want you off my property." "Dad, you cannot be serious," she wailed. "This is my home. I grew up here. You grew up here." I agreed. "But you forfeited your right to live here when you plotted to throw me out of it. When you stood by and watched your husband drug my tea. When you laughed about selling your mother necklace." I pointed to the front door. "Get up. Get your things. But listen to me very clearly, Ebony. You take only what you paid for. Personal items, clothes, toothbrush. Anything bought with the credit cards you stole from me stays here. Anything bought with the money from the necklace stays here. She struggled to her feet. She wobbled on her high heels. Dad, please. I have no money. I have no cards. How am I supposed to live? You are 32 years old, I said. You have a degree I paid for. You have 2 hands and 2 feet. Figure it out, like everybody else. She walked past me toward the house. She was sobbing loudly, hoping I would crack, hoping I would run after her and tell her it was just a lesson and she could stay. I followed her into the house. I did not trust her alone. She went to the master bedroom, my bedroom, the room they had claimed. She pulled a suitcase from the closet. It was a Louis Vuitton hard shell, $3,000. I stepped into the room. Leave the suitcase, I said. She froze. What? I saw the charge on the American Express statement, I said. Louis Vuitton trunk. $3,200. Purchased 3 weeks ago. You bought it with my identity. It stays. She threw the suitcase on the bed. She screamed in frustration. She grabbed a black garbage bag from the bathroom trash can. She dumped the trash on the floor. She started stuffing clothes into the plastic sack. She grabbed a silk blouse. Leave it, I said. Nordstrom. $500. My card. She threw the blouse at the wall. She grabbed a pair of jeans. Old ones. Faded ones. Keep those, I said. You had those before you met Hunter. This continued for 45 minutes. It was a brutal accounting of her life. Almost everything she owned, every symbol of status she clung to had been stolen. The designer shoes, the handbags, the jewelry. It all stayed. She was left with a garbage bag half full of old t-shirts, sweatpants, and underwear. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. She was stripped of her armor. She was just a woman who had made terrible choices. 10 minutes, I said. She looked at me in the mirror. Dad, she said softly, I am scared. You should be, I said. The world is a hard place when you do not have a safety net, and you just cut yours with a pair of shears. She turned to face me. I am sorry, she said. I know I said. But you are sorry you got caught. You are sorry the ride is over. You are not sorry you hurt me. If Hunter had succeeded, if I was in a nursing home right now drooling on myself, you would be in Hawaii spending the rest of the trust fund. Do not lie to me, Ebony. Not now. She lowered her head. She knew I was right. She picked up the garbage bag. She walked past me. She walked down the stairs. I followed her to the front door. She stepped out onto the porch. The night air was cool. The party lights were still on, illuminating the wreckage of the evening. She turned back. She looked small. Where will I go? She asked. There is a shelter on 4th Street, I said. They take intakes until 11. Or you can call one of your friends, the ones you bragged to about your inheritance. See if they have a couch for a disinherited fraud. She flinched. Goodbye, Dad, she whispered. Goodbye, Ebony, I said. I closed the door. I did not slam it. I closed it firmly. I turned the deadbolt. I engaged the security chain. I stood in the hallway. I listened to her footsteps fade down the driveway. I listened until I could not hear them anymore. Then silence. The house was empty. I walked back into the living room. Sheriff Miller was still there with 2 deputies. They were standing outside the door to the guest room where Hunter had set up his office, the room where he kept his fake business plans and his real gambling slips. We are sealing this room, Booker Jim said. It is a crime scene now. We need to go through his computer, his files. We need to build the case for the fraud charges. Do what you need to do, Jim, I said. A deputy placed a strip of yellow evidence tape across the doorframe. It looked out of place in my hallway next to the family photos and the antique wallpaper. But it also looked right. It was a barrier. It was a sign that the infection had been contained. We are done for the night, Jim said. We will have a car patrol the street just in case Vinny decides to come back. But I think he got the message. Thanks, Jim, I said. I really mean it. You are a tough son of a gun. Booker, Jim said, shaking my head. I would not have had the stomach for it, waiting this long, letting them think they won. I had to be sure, I said. I had to know there was nothing left to save. Jim nodded. He squeezed my shoulder. Try to get some sleep. It is over. They left. I heard the cruisers pull away. I was alone. I walked through the house. I turned off the lights one by one. I turned off the kitchen lights where Hunter had poisoned my tea. I turned off the dining room lights where Ebony had lied to my face. I turned off the living room lights where they had laughed at my dementia. I walked to the master bedroom. My room. It was a mess. Clothes on the floor, trash from the bin Ebony had emptied. But it was my mess. I picked up the Louis Vuitton suitcase. I set it in the hall. I would sell it tomorrow. I picked up the silk blouse. I put it in a pile for donation. I stripped the bed. I took the sheets Hunter and Ebony had slept on, and I threw them in the trash. I would not wash them. I wanted them out of my house. I remade the bed with fresh linens, crisp white cotton, sheets Etta had bought. I opened the window. The night breeze came in. It smelled of rain and jasmine. It flushed out the smell of Hunter cologne and Ebony perfume. I stood in the center of the room. I took a deep breath. I expected to feel lonely. I expected the silence to crush me. I had lost my wife a year ago, and tonight I had lost my daughter. I was the last Hayes standing in this house, but I did not feel lonely. I felt light. The weight of the lies was gone. The tension of walking on eggshells in my own home was gone. The fear of being watched, of being analyzed, of being hunted was gone. I walked over to the dresser, the oak dresser with the false bottom. I pressed the mechanism. The drawer popped open. I took the ruby necklace from my pocket. I placed it gently back in the velvet box. I placed the box back in the hidden compartment. I closed the drawer. Click. I looked at the photo of Etta on the nightstand. She was smiling. It was the picture we took on our 40th anniversary. She looked strong. She looked wise. I did it, Etta, I whispered to the empty room. I cleaned the house. I sat down on the edge of the bed. My bones were tired. I was 70 years old and I had just fought a war. But my mind was clear. I poured a glass of water from the carafe on the nightstand. I drank it. It was cool and pure. Tomorrow I would have to deal with lawyers. I would have to deal with the bank to fix my credit. I would have to change the locks. I would have to testify against my own child. But tonight I was safe. Tonight I was the master of my domain. I laid down. I pulled the quilt up to my chin. For the first time in months, I closed my eyes and I slept. No nightmares, no listening for footsteps, just the deep, restful sleep of a man who has nothing left to hide and nothing left to fear. The gavel hit the wood block with a sound like a gunshot. It was final. It was absolute. In the courtroom, the air was stale and smelled of floor wax and desperation. I sat in the back row. I kept my hands folded in my lap. I watched the man who had tried to poison me stand up to receive his sentence. Hunter Hayes, the judge said, looking over his spectacles. For the crimes of grand larceny, identity theft, and attempted aggravated assault against a senior citizen, this court sentences you to 8 years in a state penitentiary. Hunter did not scream this time. He did not cry. He just slumped. The fight had been beaten out of him by months of legal motions and irrefutable evidence. He looked back over his shoulder. He scanned the room. He was looking for me. He wanted to see if I would save him, if the old man would finally crack and pay for a better lawyer. I met his gaze. I did not smile. I did not frown. I just looked at him. I let him see that the bank was closed. The well was dry. The bridge was burned. The bailiff took his arm. They marched him out the side door. The heavy metal door clicked shut. Hunter was gone. He was a memory, a bad investment written off. I stood up. My knees did not ache. My back was straight. I walked out of the courtroom and into the bright sunlight of the city. I did not go home. I drove to the other side of town, to a neighborhood where the paint peeled off the houses and the streetlights flickered. I parked my truck across the street from the supermart. I waited. At 3 p.m., the shift changed. I saw her walk out. Ebony. She was wearing a red vest with a name tag that was crooked. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She looked tired. She looked older than her 32 years. She was carrying a plastic bag with a loaf of bread and a carton of milk. She walked to the bus stop. She sat on the bench. She counted the coins in her palm. My private investigator had given me the report. She was living in a studio apartment above a laundromat. The rent was $600 a month. She was working double shifts to pay it. But the rent was the least of her problems. The credit card companies had sued her. The judgment was garnishing her wages. She would be paying off the debt for the next 10 years. She looked up. She saw my truck. She knew it was me. For a moment, I thought she would come over. I thought she would scream or beg, but she did not. She just looked at me. There was shame in her eyes. Deep shame. She realized that she had traded a $5 million inheritance for a shift at a grocery store. The bus arrived. It hissed and groaned. Ebony got on. She disappeared into the crowd of tired people. I watched the bus drive away. I felt a pang in my chest. It was the echo of the love I used to have for her. But it was faint. It was like the pain of an old injury when it rains. It was there, but it did not stop me from moving. She had made her choice. She had chosen the thief. She had chosen the lie. Now she had to live in the truth. I put the truck in gear. I had a plane to catch. 6 months ago, my daughter had flown to Hawaii to celebrate stealing from me. Today, I was flying to Hawaii to celebrate surviving her. The air in Maui smelled different than the air at home. It smelled of hibiscus and salt water. It smelled expensive. I sat on the terrace of the Four Seasons Resort. It was the exact same spot where Hunter had taken that photo, the photo that had started the war. But I was not drinking a sugary cocktail. I was drinking a glass of aged Pinot Noir, and I was not with a parasite. I was with my team. Levi sat across from me. He was wearing a linen suit and a Panama hat. He looked like a gentleman from another era. He was eating a papaya with a silver spoon. Mrs. Kowalski was to my right. She had traded her power suit for a silk floral dress. She looked relaxed. Her phone was off. For the first time in 20 years, she was not billing by the hour. "This is a nice view," Booker Levi said, gesturing to the ocean. "I can see why they wanted to come here." "They came here to escape reality," I said. "We came here to enjoy it." Mrs. Kowalski laughed. It was a sharp, clear sound. "You know, Booker," she said, swirling her wine. "When Etta came to me with the idea for the blind trust, I told her it was extreme. I told her she was being paranoid. Who suspects their own children of treachery? Etta knew people," I said. "She had an instinct. She saw the cracks in the foundation before the house was even built." "She saved you," Levi said. "She did," I agreed. I looked out at the Pacific Ocean. It was vast and blue. It made my problems feel small. It made the house back home feel distant. I had used the trust fund to pay for this trip. I paid for Levi. I paid for Mrs. Kowalski. I paid for first-class tickets. I paid for the best suites. I did not feel guilty. This money was meant to be enjoyed by people who respected it, by people who had earned it through loyalty. Hunter and Ebony had come here to play rich. They pretended to be something they were not. I was here as myself, a retired engineer, a widower, a survivor. The waiter came by. He refilled our glasses. To Etta, Levi said, raising his glass. To Etta, Mrs. Kowalski said. To Etta, I whispered. We drank. The wine was good. It tasted like victory, but it also tasted like closure. I reached into my pocket. My fingers brushed against velvet. I pulled out the small black box. Levi stopped eating. Mrs. Kowalski set down her glass. They knew what it was. "You bought it back," Levi said softly. "Of course I bought it back," I said. "I went to your shop the day after the arrest. I paid you full market value plus 20% for the distress." "You did not have to do that," Booker Levi said. "I would have given it to you." "Business is business, Levi," I said. "Etta would not want me to cheat a friend." I opened the box. The ruby necklace sat there. It glinted in the Hawaiian sun. It was beautiful. It was blood red. It was the heart of the mystery. It looked innocent now. The laser inscription inside was invisible to the naked eye. The legal power it held had been discharged. The trap had been sprung. Now it was just a stone, just gold. But it was heavy. It carried the weight of the betrayal. It carried the memory of Ebony Face when she realized she had lost everything. "What are you going to do with it?" Mrs. Kowalski asked. "Are you going to keep it?" I looked at the necklace. I thought about putting it back in the false bottom drawer. I thought about keeping it as a trophy. But trophies are for games. This was not a game. This was my life. And I did not want to look at this necklace and remember the day my family died. I wanted to remember Etta. And Etta was not in this stone. Etta was in the wind. She was in the ocean. She was in the wisdom she left behind. "I'm going to put it where it belongs," I said. I closed the box. I stood up. "Come with me," I said to my friends. "We have one last errand to run." We walked down to the beach. The sand was warm. The waves were gentle. We walked past the tourists and the honeymooners. We walked until we found a quiet spot near a cluster of black volcanic rocks. I took the necklace out of the box. I held it in my hand. The gold was warm from my pocket. This necklace was a test, I said, a test of character. My daughter failed. Her husband failed. But the test is over. I looked at Levi. Thank you for keeping her secret, I said. I looked at Mrs. Kowalski. Thank you for executing her will, I said. They nodded. They understood. This was the final act. I walked to the edge of the water. The tide was coming in. The ocean was deep here. It dropped off quickly into the dark blue. I looked at the ruby one last time. Goodbye, I whispered. I drew my arm back. I threw it. It was a good throw. I still had the arm of a man who worked with steel. The necklace arched high into the air. It caught the sun one last time. A spark of red fire against the blue sky. Then it hit the water. There was a small splash, a ripple, and then it was gone. It sank down to the sand, down to the coral, down where no one could ever sell it again, down where no one could ever trade it for a cheap thrill. I stood there for a moment watching the spot where it had vanished. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The burden of the legacy was gone. The poison pill had been swallowed by the sea. I turned back to my friends. Is it done? Levi asked. It is done, I said. We walked back up the beach. We went to the bar. We ordered dinner. We laughed. We talked about the old days. We talked about the future. I realized I was rich, not just because of the $5 million in the bank. I was rich because I had people at this table who would never steal from me, people who would never drug my tea, people who loved me for who I was, not what I could give them. That night I sat on the balcony of my suite. I listened to the ocean. I thought about Etta. She had been right about everything. She knew human nature. She knew that greed is an acid that eats through love. She had set a trap not to hurt our daughter, but to reveal her. She wanted me to see the truth, because she knew that as long as I was blind, I was in danger. I took a sip of water. I looked at the moon. Etta was right. Greed is the strongest reagent. It reveals the impurities in the soul. I had lost a daughter. It was a tragedy, a wound that would never fully heal. But I had regained something more important. I had regained my dignity. I had regained my safety. I had regained my home. My name is Booker Hayes. I am a structural engineer. I build things that last. And when I found rot in my own foundation, I cut it out. I reinforced the steel. I poured new concrete. I taught them a lesson worth $5 million, but the lesson I learned was priceless. You cannot buy loyalty, you cannot buy character, and you cannot buy family. But you can protect yourself. You can stand up. You can say no. I am 70 years old, and my life is just beginning. I looked out at the dark water where the ruby lay sleeping. Rest in peace, Etta, I said. The house is clean, the books are balanced, and I am okay. I went inside. I closed the door. I turned off the light. And for the first time in a year, I did not feel the ghost of what could have been. I felt the solid ground of what was. And it was enough. I learned that silence is not weakness, it is calibration. My family mistook my patience for blindness, and that was their fatal error. We are often told that blood is thicker than water, but I discovered that loyalty is thicker than blood. You cannot buy respect, and you cannot inherit character. Sometimes the hardest thing you will ever have to do is cut the people you love out of your life to save yourself. But do not be afraid to stand alone. A house built on truth will always stand longer than a castle built on lies. What would you have done if you discovered your own family was plotting against you? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories where justice is finally served.